Yes, here we go. Another Sunday morning in the Spice It's a beautiful one. Good morning to you, Grenada. Thank you very much for joining us for today's edition of SWGG Sundays with George Grant. Today happens to be the 23rd day of June. And as I mentioned, there are quite a few clouds out there this morning, but high ones, no signs of rain. We did have some rain earlier on this morning, but I don't think anybody is complaining because of the, quote, dry season we had. So make the most of this beautiful day you've got on your hands. Pilgrims, we're going to have some fun this morning. I only have two people coming in here this morning. They're going to be sitting here at about 9:45 this morning. But that's about it. And the rest of the stuff you're going to be watching was pre-recorded. So, but important enough that we reshare that stuff with you, okay? So, let's relax here, get comfy in the hot seat, and take a look at today's rundown. We never go anywhere without getting started with a reading from the Holy Scriptures. And this morning's going to be no exception. And she's back. The little angel is with us this morning. She sent her submission in last night, and we're going to share that with you this morning. We do have, as always, two editorials for you. The first from the Grenada Advocate, which is captioned, Disaster Preparedness Important. Yeah, it is. And I hope you folks have been taking, steps to prepare yourselves, even though there's nothing too scary about the forecast for the upcoming hurricane season. You just never know. No matter how good these forecasters are, and I'm sure they're trying their best, but boy, with nature, very unpredictable. You never know what's going to happen. So be prepared. Be prepared. As far as the new today, is concerned, they're disappointed in the West Indies. Yeah, it's captioned Disappointing West Indies. You know what they're talking about, eh? Can you imagine losing that match a couple of days ago by five runs? Yeah, well, the critics have a lot to say. But again, who am I? I have no doubt that these guys are trying, not just the team, but the management and coaches, etc. I believe they're trying. But somehow it just doesn't seem to be panning out. But you know what? Patience. Patience. I remember as a little kid growing up, my mom had, I guess you can call it a poem, which said, patience is a grace. And Grace is a girl with a pretty, pretty face. Well, let me tell you, folks, I'm getting on there in years. I ain't find that girl yet, but you never know. You never know when it's going to happen. And sometimes the things you desire, the things you really want, they don't come when you want them. A lot of people think that God is just sitting there waiting on you to hand your request in, like you pull into KFC, you place your order, bang, it's there. There are people who have waited for years for the things that they desire. Might be a healing, whatever. Things just don't always happen when we want them to. But if you have faith, they will. And when you look into my eyes, you see living proof of that. I could write a book. I've often been asked, why don't you write a book? Nah, I have to be guided. And so far, that guidance has not said to me, George, sit down and write a book. Nah, maybe one of these days. I was going to say one of these days in my retirement. You're looking somebody, I don't think I will ever retire. I can't. So I'm just going to continue doing what I do and maybe add a few things to it. Hey, how about that? Okay, so we then move on to the interviews. And yeah, we do have a couple for you this morning. The first one's going to be done remotely by Zoom. We're going to be talking with a gentleman who is a U.S.-based financial consultant. Actually, he's a Grenadian, eh? We had him on the program here a couple of months ago, and he was talking about his experiences during the 1979-1983 revolution. His name is Denis Charles. And what he does, and well, he's going to tell us all of this when he comes in, when he talks with us, but he's trying to educate, especially the black community in the United States, about wealth, acquiring wealth, you know. Some people think that if you work real hard, you're going to make a lot of money. And he's saying no, not so at all. And he's showing you, or he will be showing you this morning, how the wealthy people, the rich people of this world, acquire that status. So join Denis. Denis should be joining us in about 38 minutes or so from now, 9:45. All right? Then, this thing is being promoted like you wouldn't believe. Black Wizard, celebrating his 50th anniversary. I didn't know the kid was that old. Yeah? Black Wizard's going to be coming in here this morning. He and a gentleman by the name of Learrie, who is the event organizer, the man behind this big Wizard celebration. They're going to be sitting right over here with me this morning. And it's always such a joy to sit and talk with the Wiz, Elwyn McQuilkin. Yeah. Can't wait. Can't wait. So that comes your way after we're through talking with Denis. Then, our feature. This week, the talk all over the country. Local media, the electronic media, social media, the newspapers, everything, folks, was about the CPEA results, the 2019 results. And this past week, the education minister, a young lady by the name of Emmalyn, Pierre, held a press conference to talk about that subject. Well, not only did she talk about that, you know, congratulating the people and so on, but she also brought along a gentleman by the name of Jennel Mitchell, who is with the examinations unit in the Ministry of Education. And he provided a lot of these statistics about the CPEA. In addition to talking about the CPEA, the minister also spoke about the prohibition of the sale of alcohol at school functions. And to back her up, she brought along with her a gentleman by the name of Dave Alexander, who is with the Drug Control Unit. So there, you know, that segment runs 25 minutes or so. And a lot of ground was covered in those 25 minutes. So for those of you who are not just students who sat the exams, but mums and dads and teachers, you know, I suggest that you all try and find some time to hear what these folks had to say at this past week's post-cabinet briefing, which was on Tuesday. All right? Okay. So there you have it. That's the rundown for this morning. It's going to be a full morning. Now, in the event that we have a little extra time before we pull the curtain down, I'm also going to bring you, I have this all queued up, not sure if we'll get to it, but in the event that we do, this past Friday, on Friday's edition of Good Day Grenada, you know, every Friday we have with us Brian Pitt, very outspoken social advocate, and Brian touched on a number of issues. Yes, as always, you'll find some humor in there. We can't do without humor on Grenada Broadcast. So he spoke about some very profound things. He had some very profound things to say, but in addition to that, I promise you, you'll have a chuckle or two. All right? So that, my dear friends, is the rundown for today's edition of Sundays with GG, as WGG. Now, 12 minutes after the hour, let me turn to my left here. Take a look and see who day and who do day this morning. I see that Arthur Langine is saying good morning from New York. Lydia, hello Lydia. You guys are so loyal. Eh? Thank you so much for joining us. Lydia is saying good morning from a sunny Toronto. Denis Charles. Hey, Denis is the person who's going to be joining us shortly, in about a little over half an hour or so. Grenada Sunrise. Good morning to you too, Grenada Sunrise. And Jam FM, the Sheriff, Caliste. Good to see you, fella. Kipling Francis, as always, sending God's blessings. Oh, so that's where you are, eh? Gem FM. He's in Toronto. Gem, that's my old stomping ground, boy. And then Mickaman Alexander is also saying good morning and have a blessed day. Yeah, thank you so much. Always so nice to see those blessings coming in from you folks. Appreciate it. Appreciate it. And I, too, pray for you guys and send my blessings out. Keep your eyes open. Never know when they're going to fall on your lap. Okay, so that's our little introduction to begin this morning. Let's take our first little break, and we'll come back with the buzz.
This summer, make your dreams a reality with a Co-op Bank Summer Sizzle Loan. Get up to $20,000 and qualify for a chance to win a staycation at Silver Sands. Go on a vacation, enjoy the carnival season, have your dream wedding, or make home improvements. Make this summer sizzle with everything you want it to be. Visit your nearest retail banking unit for more details. Special terms and conditions apply.
Conveniently located in the Grandand Shopping Center, for over 40 years, Food Fair has provided quality service at affordable prices. Now, grocery shopping is made easier and more convenient from the Food Fair web store.
Hey, babe. Listen, I need you to go down to Food Fair to get some groceries.
All right, no problem. Right away.
Thanks, babe. What are you doing? You're supposed to be going Food Fair to get a grocery, man.
I am, but didn't you know you can order your groceries online from the Food Fair web store?
Are you serious?
Of course. All you have to do is just to log on to www.foodfair.gd with credit card in hand, and with an order of $100 or more, Food Fair Grenadans will deliver up to 3 miles away. And you don't even have to worry about your information, you know. Their safety measures are excellent.
So hold on. You just order online and Food Fair will deliver to you?
Yep.
Oh, baby, better hurry up and order, man.
I already did. They should be here any minute now.
Enjoy easy online shopping anytime from your home or office from the Food Fair web store. Food Fair, where you can fill your baskets without emptying your pockets.
Juve chocolates, cocoa nibs, and cocoa balls from Diamond Estate Grenada are now available at Amazon.com, Amazon.ca, Amazon.co.uk, and GrenadaMarket.com. Try the sensational touch of nutmeg and a touch of ginger chocolates, 75% dark and rich, 100% pure cocoa, and their 60% dark and sweet chocolate bars today. Amazon Prime members enjoy free shipping on these orders in the USA, Canada, and Europe. GrenadaMarket.com. When you can't come to the island, the products of the island will come to you.
Alrighty, folks, during that break, we were joined by a couple of other people. They're slowly sauntering into the room. Let's see here. Davini Leo says, good morning, SGG and family. Trusting all is well. Blessings from the Almighty. Thank you, Davini. On this summer morning in the Big Apple. So he's in New York. Good to see you, guy. I'm a little bit surprised. I haven't seen Mags. Mags is El Chifo, our chief in New York. Haven't seen her yet this morning. Jorge Murillo Yippee says, respectfully suggest you peruse pages 12 of the latest edition of the Grenada Advocate newspaper in reference to a video aired in Grenada, Good Day Grenada, last week. All right, I'll do that when I get through. I'll do that when I get through, Jorge. Gem FM says, yes, he's in Toronto, sending you a rapturous greeting. Have you guys finished celebrating? Or are you going to celebrate for the rest of the year? Huh? Yeah, man. Okie doke, folks. Ernesto Jose says, good morning, Principal G and Pilgrims. It's Education Sunday once again, and I'm here. Please share the program, a platform with a difference. Ernesto, man, you couldn't have been doing a better job if I was paying you to do this, but I do thank you very much for, getting people to share the program. Really do appreciate that. Now, there's somebody by the name of Claude. I'm not sure, Claude, welcome, but I'm not sure how to pronounce your name. Is it Pudna or Pudna? It's P-U-D-N-A. So, yes, nice of you to join us, Claude. Thank you so much. Okie doke. Now, let's turn to this week's edition of The Buzz. Let me see here. Is everything hunky-dory? Yes. Let's see, yeah. Okay. By the name of Claude, I'm not sure. Okay. Folks, we begin this morning's edition of The Buzz with an opening scripture. And this one comes to you from the book of Luke. Luke chapter 6, verses 27 to 36. But you who are listening, I say, love your enemies. Do good to those who hate you. Bless those who curse you. Pray for those who mistreat you. If someone slaps you on one cheek, turn to them the other also. If someone takes your coat, do not withhold your shirt from them. Give to everyone who asks you. And if anyone takes what belongs to you, do not demand it back. Do to others as you would have them do to you. If you love those who love you, what credit is that to you? Even sinners love those who love them. And if you do good to those who are good to you, what credit is that to you? Even sinners do that. And if you lend to those from whom you expect repayment, What credit is that to you? Even sinners lend to sinners, expecting to be repaid in full. But love your enemies, do good to them, and lend to them without expecting to get anything back. Then your reward will be great, and you will be children of the Most High, because He is kind to the ungrateful and wicked. Be merciful, just as your Father is merciful. Deep words there, deep, 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 deep words, and I hope that you'll ponder them. So that's your opening scripture this morning. We now turn to Little Angel's contribution on this Sunday morning. Howdy, Little Angel. Let me quote. Views expressed in the comment which follows were initiated by McQuilkin, aired via GRENADABROADCAST.com on June 20th. That's this past Thursday. Education is a must. It is an inalienable right of human beings and must spread far and wide for the benefit of everyone. It should be made available fairly to all at all levels. It should not be misused or restricted. Education is the key to success. Any discussion on education should start with a discussion on human rights and respect for the individual and individuality. Even though born equal with the inalienable right to be educated, everyone possesses different skills and abilities. Grenada and the rest of the world need to recognize the benefits of variety in people and the various strengths they may possess. There is much reward and satisfaction to be derived from developing the natural talent of individuals and assisting them to pursue their personal interests. The individual assisting with the developmental process and those being developed are the first to enjoy the inevitable rewards which will redound to others around. Existing educational systems will continue to fail with no one to benefit if there's a lack of understanding and acceptance of what it is to be different. This is one of the reasons why an educational system that is based solely on academics has not been and will never be ideal for the human race. Square pegs will continue to exist in round holes. A lack of productivity, motivation, and drive will be the order of the day at workplaces. Customers, clients, and patrons will continue to be dissatisfied, and there will be a scarcity of people to provide certain goods and services once human rights and respect for individuality continue to be ignored. Grenada's educational system needs to change, but it must start with a mindset of all concerned: parents, teachers, students, and everyone else. Existing objectives and achievements must be reviewed. Leaders must be inspired and see the need for improvement. Educators must have genuine concerns for the well-being of their school populations and their futures. Administrators will need to take up the challenge and go against the norm for a better educational system that will benefit the greater good within Grenada, Carriacou, and Petite Martinique. Thank you, little angel. Always good to see you. Okay, let's see here. Let's go back for a minute and let's see here. I'm checking out. Give me a sec here. I'm checking out Facebook. Okay. Nixon Mitchell is saying, good afternoon, George Grant. Well, good afternoon, Nixon Mitchell. Since it's afternoon there, I'm assuming you're somewhere out there in Europe, right? Okay. Fitzroy Adams is watching from the Big Apple. Jem says he's not doing a show today. Jem FM, the sheriff, Caliste, says he's not doing a show this morning, but he's taking in your show. My goodness, Jem, I am honored. Thank you very much. You probably noticed that I do pop up on yours occasionally as well. Thank you. Okay. He's also saying good morning to Dennis Charles. Hello, Ella May. Ella May, I'm still waiting. Ella May is saying it's a rainy morning in the Missouri Ozarks. Missouri. You know, girl, I'll never forget my visit to Springfield. Years and years ago. Actually, I spent a whole month in Springfield going around giving my testimony about my miraculous cure from terminal colon cancer. I'll tell you, it was a very, very rewarding experience. I was totally blessed. And I'm so grateful to the people who arranged to get me up there for an entire month. It's nice to be away from the Grants for a month. Glenn Andrew Mark is saying good morning. So is Pele Darbo. And Anita Fraser is saying good morning. She's watching from Brooklyn. All right, folks. Yeah, we say good morning. Let's take another little break here, and we'll come back with the first of our editorials. And that one will be from the Grenada Advocate.
A natural disaster can change your life in minutes. Preparation is the best protection for your family and business. Prepare now. Create a disaster plan and make sure everyone knows what to do. Store water, non-perishable food, and medication. Remember basic emergency supplies such as batteries and flashlights. Trim overhanging trees. If trees near power lines are unsafe to trim, call GRENADA at 237 for assistance or advice. Install surge protectors to safeguard your electrical devices against outages and intermittent surges. For more information, visit grenlec.com.
GRENADA, energizing our Grenada.
Grenadian General Insurance Company, strength and stability. Grenadian General Insurance Company. Tell your friends, tell your family. We cover householders comprehensive. Motor and even fire too. Contractors all risk burglary. Public liability. Professional indemnity. Directors liability. And wait, we still have more. Come and find out more what you're waiting for.
We are located on Scott Street, St. George's. For more information, call 440-2434.
Tell everybody.
My name is Kizzy Marisha. I've been a confectionery maker 16 years now. Well, as a child growing up, my grandmom always make fudge and always make any candies, cakes, as I remember. And I always have an interest in that, you know? It's like when I'm in the kitchen, I'm very happy. if you're making coconut fudge, you just grate the coconut, you squeeze the milk, and then you strain it, and then you add your sugar, and then you put it to boil. And then after, when you reach a certain stage, you get thick, so you got to beat it. Then after, when you beat it, you pour it out, and then wait for a few minutes to get hard, and then you slice it, you cut it, and then after you break it up, and then you package it. Yeah. Providing food fair is 16 years now. I remember when I just go dropping in the fudge, I was a bit younger too, and I met Miss Harris. So I went here and said, I have a product here, some fudge. I was wondering if you would be interested to take some fudge or candies from me. I showed her, she said, you look very nice, So she said, I'll try it. So she told me to bring back some another day. So that's when I started, but Miss Harris took it from me, and then they would start, I had a good relationship with them. Of course, I felt special, at least somebody taking my thing local, and other people can see it, because if I just have it, much people come, a lot of people comes in, they're foreigners, so it was kind of special, and especially when I go in there, all the workers is very nice to me. If I pass and they say, Kizzy, you bringing anything this week? The thing finished, they always look out for me. That's what I like. The atmosphere is nice in there. My name is Kizzy Marshall. I work with Food Fair to provide you with sweet treats.
A little while ago, I was a little bit worried because I had not seen Margaret show up. Mags is always early o'clock on all our programs. Well, she is there. She just hasn't said good morning to you guys. But here she's saying, lovely place. The Ozarks. She's referring to that comment that came in from Ella Mae Jackson. Yeah. Now, Margaret, thank you. Margaret is the person who takes care of latecomers to the program. Yeah. She always asks that they send or bring with them a note signed by their mom. I don't know if you guys can see this. There's a note signed by Margaret's mom. You're excused, Margaret. Now, let's get into the editorial, which appeared in this past Wednesday's edition of the Grenada Advocate. It is captioned, Disaster Preparedness Important. While predictions are that there will be a slightly below average level of activity where weather systems are concerned this hurricane season, there should be of no comfort to us as Grenadian citizens. We should be in full disaster preparedness mode throughout the season. During this time of year, we should take into account that we can experience all kinds of disasters and not just hurricanes. For instance, when a bad weather system approaches the island, we can at times get flash flooding and strong winds. The damage that can result can set us back somewhat as communities are affected and persons displaced. So we cannot only think of a strong hurricane as the only weather event that can pose a threat to life and limb. As Executive Director of the Caribbean Disaster Emergency Management Agency, SEDEMA, Ronald Jackson recently reminded us, we can never be too prepared for a hurricane or any other disaster that might strike. Jackson further pointed out that we live in a multi-hazard environment where there are also threats from earthquakes, tsunamis, and even volcanoes. And as such, he noted the need for a heightened state of readiness in order to minimize the impact of these hazards. The Caribbean Catastrophe Risk Insurance Facility has also been key in pointing to the need to be fully prepared for any disaster, suggesting that Caribbean countries need to have comprehensive disaster management policies and plans, as well as adequate allocations in their budgets for disaster management and recovery to reduce their vulnerabilities to natural hazards, since these natural hazards continue to have a significant impact on the economies of small island states such as ours in the Caribbean. If we truly consider the region's vulnerability to various hazards, we will all agree that action must be taken to ensure recent developmental gains are not reversed. Globally, we are experiencing new and emerging risks and hazards as well. And of particular concern are the effects of global climate change and climate variability, which are already increasing the frequency and possibility, the intensity of climate hazards, especially storm events. Given that an earthquake, tsunami, flood, or hurricane can give us a surprise at any time, it behoves us, householders and citizens, to give greater thought to disaster preparedness and to pay greater heed to the things we have heard and seen, so perchance we can be better prepared if some hazard does decide to pay us a visit. So, go ahead and ask yourself, do you have an emergency plan or evacuation plan for your home or even your office if a disaster does strike? Have you communicated it? Has it been put into practice so persons are familiar with it? Do you also know your community's vulnerabilities? This may be key in understanding what types of disasters are most likely to affect you, which can in turn inform your plans. These are a few steps citizens can take as they seek to get prepared. To be ready for any eventuality, you will need to plan, prepare, and practice. It is really important for individuals, families, schools, and workplaces to have a comprehensive disaster preparedness plan, which they are familiar with and can put into practice when any disaster strikes. That, Pilgrims, the editorial which appeared in Wednesday's edition of the Grenada Advocate. Let's see, what's going on here? Margaret is thanking her mom for getting that excuse to me. Okay, I'm going to take another little break here, and we'll come back with the new today.
Juve chocolates, cocoa nibs, and cocoa balls from Diamond Estate Grenada are now available at Amazon.com, Amazon.ca, Amazon.co.uk, and GrenadaMarket.com. Try the sensational touch of nutmeg and a touch of ginger chocolates, 75% dark and rich, 100% pure cocoa, and their 60% dark and sweet chocolate bars today. Amazon Prime members enjoy free shipping on these orders in the USA, Canada, and Europe. GrenadaMarket.com. When you can't come to the island, the products of the island will come to you.
With free island-wide delivery, Hubbard's Building Supplies and Lumber Departments continue to provide the best quality lumber, steel, tiles, plumbing materials, electrical, and general hardware supplies at competitive prices. We continually consult with builders, homeowners, and contractors to improve product range and services. Enjoy discounts where applicable, including the use of credit and debit cards. At Hubbard's Building Supplies, Grandance, and Lumber Department, Caranage, we offer quality service, affordable prices, giving you the convenient, reliable, free island-wide delivery. Call 440-2087 for all your home improvement and building solutions.
It's good to be early. good to be early. Pay your GRENADA bill on time.
Alrighty, folks, we've now been joined by Michael Alexander, Bernard Gilbert, Jennel Samuel, Melvin Coutain, Gloria Hobbins. Hello, cuz. How you doing, girl? Kathleen Thomas, Gemma Andrew Church, Keyshawn Brathwaite, just saying good morning to everyone. Hey, good to see you guys. Folks, here comes the editorial which appeared in Friday's edition of the New Today. It is captioned, Disappointing Windies. The West Indies cricket team has again deceived a Caribbean public that held out great hope that the team had a very good outside chance of winning the 50-over World Cup in England. The team made very light work of Pakistan in its first game, as the battery of fast bowlers demolished the Pakistani batting, resulting in many commentators likening the team to the great West Indian players of the 1970s and 1980s. It was felt that if the fast bowlers maintained the aggression, that many batsmen will perish against the West Indies pacers. It did happen to a little extent against Australia, as the West Indies pacemen had the Aussies on the back foot with 4 quick wickets before their opponents recovered to post a score that proved to be too challenging to our batsmen. However, the Bangladesh batsmen brought back bitter memories of recent times to West Indies cricket on Monday, with a hammering of our pace attack which virtually sent our cricketers out of the World Cup. West Indies are badly lacking in discipline to compete successfully against the major nations in cricket like India, Australia, New Zealand, and England in all formats of the game. The pathetic situation is best summed up by our great fast bowler, Curtly Ambrose, who told the BBC Test Match Special, and I quote, "West Indies can give you a brilliant performance, and then they are very, very ordinary," unquote. On the loss against Bangladesh, after West Indies posted in excess of 300 runs, it was Sir Curtly who said the following, I quote, "It was a good score, but they came out and bowled absolute rubbish, and the Bangladesh batsmen capitalized and won this game handsomely. It was a total massacre," unquote. West Indies had every opportunity to post a score of over 350 against Bangladesh, as many of the top order batsmen got good starts and failed to capitalize on it. Our batsmen are lacking the mental discipline as the players of yesteryear, like Sir Viv Richards, Gordon Greenwich, Alvin Calacharan, Lawrence Rowe, Clive Lloyd, Richie Richardson, and Brian Lara, to occupy the crease for long periods and go on to make match-winning centuries. The current lot is seemingly satisfied to make a dashing 50 with a few brutal 6s and pretty 4s, and then gifting their wickets away. The modern-day West Indies batsmen do not seem to understand that bowlers need to work real hard to get their wicket, instead of playing the sort of strokes that give them a chance and get them out. The players also need to understand that they have to lift the game from the IPI level in India to World Cup standard to match the best players around the globe. The newly installed president of West Indies Cricket, Ricky Skerritt, should realize by now, based on the performance in the ongoing World Cup, that an uphill task lies ahead for the regional cricket team to be competitive once again against the 4 major cricketing nations. It is one thing to talk about the obvious talent that there is in West Indies cricket, but something has to be done to get our players to move on to the next level and to play at a more consistent level in both the batting and bowling departments. There is just no way that the West Indies team of the 70s and 80s would post a total of over 300 runs in a 50-over match and not bowl out their opponent under that score. On another note, the New Today would like to use this opportunity to congratulate all those students who were successful in the 2019 CPEA exams and secured a place at the secondary school level. However, this newspaper is not happy with an education system that focuses primarily on providing free secondary education for our students, regardless of one's ability or inability to do the work that is required within the secondary school environment. There are too many students in the country who are not academically inclined and fall through the cracks at the secondary school level and are not able to fulfill their ambitions. Where are the institutions and facilities on the island to provide for our students who are more adept at technical subjects? The state has a responsibility to provide more facilities for our students who want to become skilled masons, carpenters, plumbers, and electricians, etc. The new low concept should be built upon by government, and such institutions should be located in more strategic places around the country to cater for our youngsters who are not interested in pursuing academic qualifications, but are blessed with useful hands. It is a shame that 45 years after independence, that Grenada is talking about an ongoing building boom, but the country might have to import skilled laborers to do certain work, since the island does not possess such skilled trade workers. It is said that this country is spending millions every year to maintain a program that concentrates on amenities, and of late, traffic wardens. That, Pilgrims, is your editorial, which appeared on Friday in the New Today. All right, now let me let's get back here to Facebook for just a minute. And Gloria said, oh, by the way, Kathleen Thomas is saying good morning. Gloria Hobbins, she says, we recently implemented a family disaster plan. Everyone should at least be thinking about it in these times. We are having tornadoes in New Jersey. Yeah. And those are things you don't mess around with. Gloria, having lived in North America, I can tell you that the people up there take disaster preparedness a lot more seriously than we do down here. And I don't understand why. I mean, if anybody needed any reason why we should care about disaster preparedness, just look back, 2004, Ivan, hey? Not that long ago. Anyway, John, hello John. John is saying, Good morning to the good ship SWGG crew from a highly jet-lagged Carriacou Islander. Yeah, John was on the road, and he is back. He is back. Good to see you, John. Now, let's see here. I'm a little bit curious. It's 9 minutes now to 10 o'clock, and I'm wondering, where are my first guests? The Black Wizard, Elwyn McQuilkin, and his event organizer. I don't know, but you folks may have to bail me out. Let me take a little break here, and we'll come on back.
This summer, make your dreams a reality with a Co-op Bank Summer Sizzle Loan. Get up to $20,000 and qualify for a chance to win a staycation at Silver Sands. Go on a vacation, enjoy the carnival season, have your dream wedding, or make home improvements. Make this summer sizzle with everything you want it to be. Visit your nearest retail banking unit for more details. Special terms and conditions apply.
Juve chocolates, cocoa nibs, and cocoa balls from Diamond Estate, Grenada are now available at Amazon.com, Amazon.ca, Amazon.co.uk, and GrenadaMarket.com. Try the sensational touch of nutmeg and a touch of ginger chocolates, 75% dark and rich, 100% pure cocoa, and their 60% dark and sweet chocolate bars today. Amazon Prime members enjoy free shipping on these orders in the USA, Canada, and Europe. GrenadaMarket.com. When you can't come to the island, the products of the island will come to you.
Conveniently located in the Grandand Shopping Center, for over 40 years, Food Fair has provided quality service at affordable prices. Now, grocery shopping is made easier and more convenient from the Food Fair web store.
Hey, babe. Listen, I need you to go down to Food Fair to get some groceries.
All right, no problem. Right away.
Thanks, babe. What are you doing? You're supposed to be going Food Fair to get a grocery, man.
I am, but didn't you know you can order your groceries online from the Food Fair web store?
Are you serious?
Of course. All you have to do is just to log on to www.foodfair.gd with credit card in hand, and with an order of $100 or more, Food Fair Granadas will deliver up to 3 miles away. And you don't even have to worry about your information, you know. Their safety measures are excellent.
So hold on. You just order online and Food Fair will deliver to you?
Yep.
Oh, baby, better hurry up and order, man.
I already did. They should be here any minute now.
Enjoy easy online shopping anytime from your home or office from the Food Fair web store. Food Fair, where you can fill your baskets without emptying your pockets.
Folks. I began the program. Hey, good morning, Chester. I began the program this morning by telling you that we were expecting to have here Calypsonian, the Black Wizard, and his organizer, and his event organizer, and that I was so looking forward to seeing the Wiz again, because he's always such a joy to sit and talk with when he comes into appear on this program. Well, it's now, he should have been here about 9 minutes ago, and I haven't seen or heard from him, nor his guest, all right? Now, having said that, sometimes I think you people, or at least some of you, may wonder, you know, why does George keep talking about God and putting his trust in God and this and that? Yeah? Well, let me tell you something. There's a passage in the Holy Scriptures that says all things work for good for those who love the Lord. Last night, I sat here putting together this morning's program, and I wasn't sure why I was doing it, but I decided to pull out a piece with Brian Pitt. Brian appeared on Friday's edition of Good Day, Grenada. And I thought, just in case, I didn't know at the time I was being guided. Well, see? I thought just in case we have a little extra time, and I mentioned that to you at the top of the program this morning, just in case we had a little extra time at the end, I was going to try and sneak Brian in. Well, now you understand why I was moved to pull out that piece with Brian Pitt. It is so that I have something to present to you now rather than you sitting here watching this pretty face. Okay, ugly face. Go ahead, see if I care. All right? Before I do, though, let me pay a visit here to social media. Chester says, greetings from a beautiful day in Zurich, Switzerland. Hope you're okay, Jess. Margaret says, it is disappointing to hear an editorial advocating that we should discriminate in secondary education. Granted that the education system needs to be revamped. We certainly don't need to go back to the days of only the privileged few having access to education. Yeah. Yeah, Max, you came across loud and clear. And I hope the editor pays attention. Gem FM, the Sheriff Kelly says, Amen. To God be the glory. Well, at least one person out there recognized what I was saying a couple of minutes ago about how people are guided. Sometimes you feel something moving you in a certain direction. Do this, don't do that, do this. And you're not sure why. But you have to trust. You have to trust. And everything will work out fine. If you had any doubts, you've seen it happen here this morning. Now, having said that, Brian Pitt sat at his home on Friday morning and talked with me for about 20, 25 minutes. And we touched on a number of topics. One of the things he touched on was the possibility that, after hearing recently about how many millions of dollars our government, not our government, you and me, have to pay because of the misdeeds of our government. You heard that? You remember that? I'm not making that. It's all over the place. Well, guess what? We are now in a position where we could lose millions of dollars to GRENADA. Yeah. That case in the International Court, I understand it's gotten started. Keep your ears open. We will. Something else we talked about was a matter which has been buzzing around on Facebook this past week. It's about the U.S. Coast Guard being sued by Jamaican fishermen, 4 Jamaican fishermen. This incident happened, if I'm not mistaken, back in 2017. These gentlemen claimed that they were really, really inhumanely treated. Well, the American Civil Liberties group, they have gotten together and filed a suit against the U.S. Coast Guard on behalf of those Jamaican fishermen. At some point, the conversation also turned to the caliber of journalism in Grenada. Yeah, we talked about that as well. And also, West Indies cricket. So yeah, Brian and I talked about a few things. But you didn't miss any, because right now, check this out. Let me start by asking you this. Did you hear that story a little while ago?
No, I didn't. That's just before. What was that story about?
It's about 4 Jamaican fishermen who, yeah, they went fishing.
Yeah. Well, that's an oldish kind of story. if I'm not mistaken, there was a United Nations report not too long ago about the Americans detaining people at sea in international waters. And because they don't come into port shortly after these detentions, on some of these boats, they have to keep these people for a while until they get into ports. And if I'm not mistaken, there are some legal matters before the American system where people are claiming mistreatment.
The American Civil Liberties Union, they filed a lawsuit last week.
Yes, yes. And if I'm not mistaken, there is a Canadian group also filing lawsuit for some Central Americans who were caught supposedly moving illegal drugs around and were detained in inhumane conditions. So this is an interesting matter that, but you know, George, the Americans seem to do what they want, when they want, how they want it.
Yep. Yeah.
And they seem to be getting away with all of this all the time because, you know, they are not aligned to any international courts, I believe. So that this matter is dealt with internally.
Yeah.
You know, I don't even believe, because they are a member of the Security Council, that the United Nations have any clout in getting change.
Margaret says, I guess in your estimation, the Jamaicans are lying and the U.S. is telling the truth. Shaking my damn head. So says Margaret.
No. Who's lying? The Jamaicans are lying?
Margaret says, I guess in your estimation, and probably mine as well, the Jamaicans are lying and the U.S. is telling the truth.
No. Margaret is misunderstanding me. There is evidence that there are other groups from other countries that are suffering the same fate that these Jamaicans suffer. So, I mean, there is evidence that people from different countries who are caught on the high seas are subjected to inhumane conditions.
Yeah.
Margaret misunderstood what I said.
Yeah. She says, thank you, Brian. Some of us seem to deny the obvious.
No. This is a serious matter.
Which has been quite repetitive over the years. Yeah.
Yes, and the Americans have ignored complaints from several governments, including the United Nations, on this issue.
Well, they don't have any respect for the United Nations, do they?
No, they don't, unfortunately.
Yeah. You know, last night we were doing a program called Make We Chat, and during the program I got up to go get a cup of coffee, a television set was on, and I haven't been watching a lot of television lately, so I'm not exactly sure when this happened. But apparently a U.S. drone was shot down by Iran, which is causing quite a bit of a brouhaha now. I have to confess, I have not checked out the details of this, but I would imagine that if Iran shot a U.S. drone down, it would have been over Iranian territory, wouldn't it?
Well, that is the Iranians' position. The Americans are disputing that. And both sides are arguing that they were right. But given the history of American involvement in other countries, they tend to make up a case for going in. We remember Iraq.
Yeah. Weapons of mass destruction.
Yes, weapons of mass destruction. And Colin Powell, I believe, is still embarrassed by his presentation to the United Nations on this issue.
Yeah. Ryan,
but that's a very sensitive thing that's going on now, George, and we better hope for the best.
Yeah. So I was speaking to somebody after the program last night, and I said, George, tomorrow morning when you wake up, there might be war, you know. That's how serious it is.
Well, the only saving grace, Trump seemed to be a person who don't want to go to war. Maybe he feels if he goes to war, that might upset his base, which might be a good thing.
Margaret says the drone was shot down on Wednesday night. Brian, boy, I don't know. We live in a wacky world. Anyhow, since I sort of threw you off there, I'm going to get back to you in just a minute about Windies, but I want to hear what you have up your sleeve this morning. Take it away.
George, one major issue. I heard a report by the Minister of Education on a new policy regarding alcohol sales on school compound. Am I right?
Yes, sir. I heard that.
And I found it interesting, that policy, because just a few days before that, I was talking to somebody who works in social affairs. Only to find out, George, that a shopkeeper cannot sell alcohol to a minor if the alcohol is open. In other words, they can't sell an eighth or quarter, but they can sell an eighth bottle or quarter bottle, providing it's sealed. And I said, "Pardon me, what are you telling me?" He said, "Yes, Mr. Pitt. You know, this issue has been an ongoing concern, that a kid can walk into a shop and buy an eighth bottle of rum, as long as it's sealed, and the shopkeeper has to sell it. But he cannot buy an eighth when the shopkeeper pulls it out to take it home." I said, well, there's something wrong here.
Something wrong with your thinking, sir. Something wrong with your thinking.
And the person said, "Mr. Pitt, you know, that's not all, you know." I mean, and I mentioned the fact that we have a lot of underage pregnancy in Grenada, George, of minors. And this person said to me, "Well, you know, Mr. Pitt, if the child who is pregnant, who gets pregnant, does not want to move against the person who got her pregnant, there's nothing the police can do about it." And I said, "Pardon me? But if you have sex with a minor, it's an offense."
Yep.
Yeah?
Yep.
And in today's world, there are all kinds of ways to find out who the father of that child is.
DNA.
And if you can find out who the father of that child is, irrespective of the cooperation of that child, you can charge the person. Am I wrong, George?
No, you're absolutely correct on that one.
And while I'm thinking about all of this, George, I ask myself the question, what is the purpose of the Ministry of Legal Affairs? So if the Ministry of Social Affairs has some issues with the sale of alcohol and or pregnancy of minors, isn't that something that you take up with the Ministry of Legal Affairs to make sure that the laws in today's world can prosecute these people? You change the law as it regards to the sale of alcohol to minors, period, whether it's closed or not. And you change the laws as it relates to getting a young lady underage pregnant.
Yeah.
Am I wrong?
Yeah. No, you're not.
You know, I remember going to court some time ago, George, because I had a neighbor who burned some bush close to my boundary, and the fire came onto my property. And we called the police department and the fire brigade, and they came and they made a big issue. They put the fire out, and the police charged this person who was responsible. And we went to court, and the magistrate at the time said to me, "Mr. Pitt, you know, this is a waste of everybody's time because the charge for this thing is $24. I said, "Pardon me?" He said, "Yes, $24. So I was having a conversation with a friend of mine recently, and I told him this story. He said, "Brian, you know, that has not been changing." So the effort that we put into alerting people in the dry season about not burning, if you burn, the charge is $24. What is the purpose and role of the Ministry of Legal Affairs? If not, you know, we have some laws on the books from 1930-something and 1940-something. Some of them probably still expressed in punctual offense. And we have not changed some of these things, George.
Well, that's been a long-standing issue here, Brian. We have so many laws on the book, you know. If somebody sneezes, you go to Parliament and you set up a law. But then, first of all, the laws aren't well thought out and then not enforced.
Well, it must make the job of judges and magistrates very, very difficult.
Well, you should sit and talk to them sometime.
As they try to to enforce some of the laws we have on the books.
Yeah.
You know, and I think it's an issue that different government departments need to take up with the Ministry of Legal Affairs. Or legal affairs need to be asking the question of varying government departments, tell me how we can make your job easier by updating some of these laws that is on the books. And I don't know that information, that dialogue is taking place.
Yeah.
There's another issue that I saw on your website, George. It was an opinion piece written by Claudette Joseph in regards to the GRENLEC and the government of Grenada.
Ah, yes.
And I found that this, it says part 1, so I'm looking forward to part 2. This thing was so well written.
Yeah.
It reminded me, well, okay, where are our journalists in Grenada? And if Claudette can put together a piece like that, and to be quite honest, I'm reading this thing and I'm saying to myself, if this is true, then we are about to lose another case to a company that is going to cost the taxpayers a lot of money, which the Prime Minister not too long ago complained about in terms of the amount of judgments against the government of Britain.
Yeah.
Yes, George?
Yeah, absolutely.
Where are our journalists, George? And I asked the question because they are the fifth estate, if I'm not mistaken. So we need good journalists, especially in this Grenada right now, where the one party controls everything.
Yeah. You noticed.
Yes, I did. Yes, I did. One final issue, George, and it is something there's a conversation going on in the United States right now about reparations. I think there was a meeting in front of Congress a couple of days ago, reparations. And on this issue, I want to compliment Dr. Hilary Beckles. You know, the University of the West Indies is about, if they haven't yet, about to receive reparations from an institution in the UK that benefited from slavery.
Yeah.
So reparations the argument should not be that governments should pay reparations. If we in the Caribbean and the United States were to do our research and find out what institutions have benefited from slavery, then that might be their push to take to get reparation.
Yeah.
Right, George?
Yeah.
So I think there's an agreement now between the University of the West Indies and this Institute of Learning in the United Kingdom, so that the university will stand to benefit, and as a result, our children will benefit.
Yeah. Well said, Brian.
Interesting discussion, George.
Interesting.
George, that's about all I have today. Anything you want to add?
Well, not necessarily me. I'm going to come after you about cricket in just a minute. You ain't going to get away. You ain't getting away until I hit you with that one. But there's some comments on Facebook here. Ryan says, journalists in Grenada? You're kidding, Brian.
George, we have to keep hoping. And we have to keep hoping that people are listening. Because the world is changing right before our eyes. As a matter of fact, we hear now Facebook is talking about a currency, and we have not yet even tried to regulate what's happening on social media.
Yeah.
And now they talk about a currency. So the thing is gone way ahead of us, and we're still dabbling in laws that are 1930, 1940-ish.
Ryan says here, unique angle on reparations, Brian. He's been listening to what you're saying.
Yes, that is the way to go.
And
because we have the leverage of boycotting these institutions.
Kipling Francis says, it's really sad to see the incompetence of the government. Oh, not the government, the party who acts like the government. Oh boy.
Whether he likes it or not, George, that's the government that the people elected. I heard somebody said after the last election, I found it funny. They said that the people have spoken. But the people have talked shit sometimes.
Yeah, yes. No kidding. No kidding. John Bruno says, I think he's in Carriacou or Petit Martinique, he says, many of the big nations are supportive of reparation for the Jews. Why not the same for blacks?
Yes, yes, but there's a lot of resistance to that. So the institutional way might be the better way to go. And again, I commend Hilary Beckles and his team for taking this approach.
Then Earl Joseph Maitland says access to certain information isn't even granted to the journalists, and I can attest to that. And he goes on to say journalists are limited just as we are. There is no bias when it comes to the deprivation of transparency. The man speaks volumes.
Yes, yes, yes. If that is the case, we better start lobbying for some Freedom of Information Act.
Oh, please! How many years has that lobby been going?
Well, it has not. The leadership has not been there, George. And I think the leadership for the Media Association, if I'm not mistaken, some of the people who have led the Media Association over the years are very questionable.
Yeah. Margaret says, actually, Brian, that discussion is happening here re-institutions. Check Georgetown University and their attempts to compensate the descendants of those slaves the university sold to get out of bankruptcy. They are providing free education, and Georgetown students voted to tax themselves to pay for this.
Well, that's good. That's good. If that is going on in the United States.
Jorge says, I am just trying to see the big picture from both angles and with an open mind. Are you? Okay, I think that's a debate he's got going with Margaret there. Let me scroll back here. Okay, I think that's it for the time being. Now, Mr. Pitt, you can wipe the smile off your face. The West Indies.
Yes, we are coming home early. We are coming home early, and maybe it's a good thing, George, so that we can back off all this international cricket for a while, put our house in order before we re-enter. Maybe we should not have even been at the World Cup, to be quite honest with you. At the last game, it was very evident, George, that Russell was injured. As a matter of fact, I think Russell has been injured since this competition started. So we have been playing a very unfit person who is known to hit sixes in a 2020 game and hope that he perform in a 50-over game. This is not making excuses. I believe we still have a very good team on paper. I believe that if we selected the right team, we could have been competitive in this World Cup. We have Roach sitting in the pavilion, and he's a strike bowler that can take wickets. So maybe it's a good thing that we're coming home early, so we can put our heads together, huddle, and see how we can plan the way forward.
I don't know whether you saw it or not, but there was somebody in Trinidad who was just heartbroken by the performance of the West Indies, and he blamed it all on the management or the coaching of the team. Did you see that?
No, I haven't seen that, but I won't be surprised because there are a lot of people acting now. I think there's an acting head coach, there's an acting assistant coach, there's a lot of people acting in roles because the new management of West Indies cricket fired a lot of people when they took over.
Yeah.
I don't know that they had good reason to do that, but I have to trust that they had good reason. So maybe when we start to rethink our position in West Indies cricket, select a new selection panel, put a proper coach in place. By the way, you know, Mr. Simmons was a very good coach. And I think he was a coach that was accepted by the players. He tried to fight for the players' interests, and himself and Mr. Cameron fell out and he lost his job.
There you go.
As a matter of fact, I believe that it cost the West Indies board some money because they had to compensate him because he was unduly dismissed. So So maybe we need to put our heads together and plan the way forward for our West Indies team.
You know, I really wish I could run that piece, but I won't because this guy was very passionate, and he was almost in tears. I mean, you know, he claimed that the team was causing people to have heart attacks. Seriously. And unfortunately, there were just too many obscenities in the piece, so I decided, you know, not to run that. But the message came across loud and clear. By the way, here,
well, we don't seem to have the formula for the 50-over game. We can be very competitive at a 20-over game because we vote. You know,
we vote.
You know, we want to hit a 6 by every ball, but we have 50 overs. You know, and 300 runs is a good total in
yes.
not for the West.
Yes.
Bangladesh chased that down the other day.
Yes.
And embarrassed us, to be quite honest with you.
It was embarrassing.
Yes, it was. It was.
And
but we had our bowling was one-dimensional.
I was just going to point out to you, it pointed directly at the bowling because the batsman did tally some numbers. Ryan says West Indies cricket seems impotent, Brian.
Ryan, be patient. We'll start winning again.
You know, Brian, I'm going to have to put you into the same category as Winty. Actually, one day I should probably have both of you have a discussion, and boy, would that be something to behold. All right, yeah. Well, I'll tell you, Mr. Pitt certainly sparked quite a bit of activity on social media there. So I'm gonna read some of these comments. Actually, I'm try and read all of them for you. And I'm going to start with the most recent. First of all, Donna Joseph says, lots of the players aren't disciplined in using the wicket. Everyone wants to hit the biggest 6. So says Donna. I guess that's what Brian was referring to when he says whoop. Yeah, they're whooping. Agatha Jordan says, Donna, no cricket brains. John Kennison says, as Brian says, read the West Indies cricket selection. Read West Indies cricket. Hold on a sec here. Here. Select your best players, not your friends and sons, etc. You guys are spotting a lot of the intricacies in West Indies cricket, aren't you? Agatha Jordan says, I so agree with Mr. Pitt. Yes, the team is coming home. Big disappointment. Yeah. Can't wait until Wednesday when our friend Sharon shows up here. Sharon was up there watching some of the games in England. I could just imagine how she feels. Let's see here. Next up, Donna Joseph says, just look how the New Zealanders continue to keep the score ticking by taking the singles and rotating the strike. All players have the mentality of hitting a big 6. Whooping. Donna, whooping. Moving back a little further, Ernesto says, every time Windies came to the field, it's a different team. That tells us we're just not getting it right. The team needs to be scrapped all over with new players and new management. They just got new management, Ernesto. By the way, we've just been joined by Green's Otto Bade. Donna also says, Russell went to the game injured. That's one of the issues that was raised sometime during the week on one of the Good Day Grenada programs. Abraham Joseph, okay, forget about cricket now, we're moving back a little further. Abraham Joseph says, I think Mr. Gary spoke about this matter of reparations years ago. probably did. I don't remember. I was just a little boy. One thing I remember about Gary, he beat the hell out of me in a game of tennis down at Tantine. That I remember. But then again, come on, I was just a little teenager, and this man, he had a spin like you wouldn't believe. Let's see here. Scrolling back a little further, Lydia James, she's talking about the matter of journalists. She says, most of the journalists in Grenada are for the ruling party. The remainder's hands are tied. Point. Melvon Coutain says, but sugar, we're talking about alcohol now, and not selling alcohol to the youngsters. Melvon Coutain says, but sugar is just as bad as alcohol. Cola machines in hospital and government buildings. It takes 13 spoonfuls of sugar to make one Coke. You know, I'm glad you mentioned that, Melvon, because that's one of the things that came to mind. You talk about not selling alcohol to the kids, and in virtually all the schools, you find people selling these drinks, which are just loaded with sugar, carbohydrates, and then we can't understand why we're faced with so much diabetes and obesity and all that stuff. I just don't understand the logic. Forgive me. Maybe it's me. Maybe. A little further back, Kashawn Brathwaite says the whole government administrative system is bloated and broken. The public service should be slashed by at least 50%. So too should the regulations. Kashawn, we have regulations for everything in this country. Everything. Just not enforced. Just not enforced. Like I mentioned in that piece, you sneeze, next thing you hear, next Monday or Tuesday, somebody's in Parliament, I think we should have legislation about sneezing. And then it just sits there. Nobody does anything about it. Kishan also goes on to say, the only legal and administrative changes in Grenada are tax and fee increases. Yeah, those they enforce. Those they enforce. Agatha Jordan says, I've gone off them completely. She's talking about the West Indies here. She also says, I heard the saying, the Windies. Please, George, it's West Indies. They have been such a disappointment. Okay, Donna, that's a habit I'm going to have to break. I think a lot of people, refer to them as the Windies, but I'm going to have to try and break that habit and say the West Indies. Let's see, what else here? Kashawn Brathwaite says, secondary education is good. Yes. However, this education should promote technical skills and not just academics. As for the West Indies, they have a habit of snatching defeat from the jaws of victory. That's a nice one, Kashan. Nice. And then going even further back to where I was talking about guidance, in preparation for the program. Gem FM, the sheriff, says, God is our compass. I am a firm believer that whenever about to do anything, I go to the first voice in my head. Whenever I go to the second voice, I am often wrong. Go with the first, and you will win all the time. Yeah. Okay, let's see. Let's see here. Ernesto says, why wasn't Roach on the team from the start? Something has to be wrong with the management and selectors. And Donna here says, most of those same journalists have no training in journalism, where being unbiased is a big part of their training. Lots of them were given a 6-week crash course in China, where journalists must and have to toe the straight, I guess she meant toe, the straight line. What do you expect when these few hand-picked NNP supporters come back from the crash course in China? Well, you know, I want to say something here too, and I've said this before on the air with no reservation. I have no shame saying it. I've been in this business 47 years, 48 years, okay? And I have never, ever been, quote, trained as a journalist. I have never sat in a formal training session. Never, okay? A lot of what I do is common sense. And that's one of the reasons why, you know, very often you hear people referring to me as a journalist. And I have openly and publicly denied that, as Margaret, on the air. I am not a journalist. I don't believe it would be appropriate for me to sit here and say to you, yeah, George Grant, journalist. No. To me, somebody who's a journalist is somebody who is trained in that skill. I was not. Common sense and a clear conscience. Those are the things that have caused this program to be into its 15th year now. I've seen tons of programs come and go, tons of websites come and go. We were the first to start this news website thing. It wasn't even intended to be, but it just so turned out that you liked what you saw and encouraged me, and I kept on working at it. I hear stories, I don't just go publish them anymore. Look at the matter this past week with the Prime Minister. The Prime Minister was gone for a few days. And all over the place, man, I can't tell you how many WhatsApps I received telling me, yeah, the Prime Minister was admitted to hospital, palpitations, and it's because he did this or did that. And I saw it. I was never able to verify it. So guess what? I ignored it. I didn't go forwarding that information to this one on WhatsApp and that one on Facebook and that one on Instagram. No. That's not my cup of tea. It's not my cup of tea. See? So let's leave it at that. Okay, anything else here? Ernesto says, Principal G, can you believe I'm on the 3 train in Brooklyn watching you on Facebook? You're on the train. Well, nice to know that we're just about everywhere you go. Pilgrims, like I said, my guest, Elwyn McQuilkin, and his cohort never showed up. So that was one particular issue. But we had a filler. We were provided for. Now, Claude Punda says, Mr. Grant, West Indies cricket and cricketers suck, especially the bowling. Yeah. And by the way, Ernesto says he's heading to Brooklyn. Now, you've heard the saying, it never rains, but it pours. Or some people say when it rains, it pours. Well, here's my new challenge. And we're going to get through this one as well. Okay? Because at 10:15, that's 20 minutes ago, we were supposed to have a U.S.-based financial consultant, or call him financial advisor, gentleman by the name of Mr. Denis Charles. Okay? He's not going to be in here with us. He's going to be talking with us via Zoom, something like Skype. Well, it's now 24 minutes to 11 o'clock, and I haven't seen him. But there's a messenger here which says, "Can you see me, Mr. Grant?" No, I can't see it. That's the monitor there. I'd be looking at him, for him. He ain't there. So that's another dropout. This morning we're not having internet dropouts. We're having people dropouts. Okay. But George is smiling. So, let me take a little break and we'll come back and tell you how we hope to resolve that issue.
My name is Kizzy Marisha. I've been a confectionery maker 16 years now. Well, as a child growing up, my grandmom always make fudge and always make any candies, cakes, as I remember. And I always have an interest in that, you know? It's like when I'm in the kitchen, I'm very happy. If you're making coconut fudge, you just grate the coconut, you squeeze the milk, and then you strain it, and then you add your sugar, and then you put it to boil. And then after, when you reach a certain stage, you get thick, so you got to beat it. Then after, when you beat it, you pour it out, and then wait for a few minutes to get hard, and then you slice it, you cut it, and then after you break it up, and then you package it. Yeah. Providing food fair is 16 years now. I remember when I just go drop it in the fudge. I was a bit younger too, and I met Miss Harris. So I went here and I said, you know, I have a product here, some fudge. I was wondering if y'all would be interested to take some fudge or candies from me. I showed her. She said, you look very nice, you know. So she said, I'll try it. So she told me to bring back some another day. So that's when I started. But Miss Harris took it from me, and then they would start. So you know. I had a good relationship with them. Of course, I felt special, you know, at least somebody taking my thing local and, you know, other people can see it, because if it's I just have it, not much people come. A lot of people comes in, they're foreigners. So it was kind of special, you know, and especially when I go in there, all the workers, it's very nice to me. If I pass and they say, Kizzy, you bringing anything this week for the thing finish? You know, they always look out for me. That's what I like. The atmosphere is nice in there. My name is Kizzy Marisha. I work with Food Fair to provide you with sweet treats.
A natural disaster can change your life in minutes. Preparation is the best protection for your family and business. Prepare now. Create a disaster plan and make sure everyone knows what to do. Store water, non-perishable food, and medication. Remember basic emergency supplies such as batteries and flashlights. Trim overhanging trees. If trees near power lines are unsafe to trim, call GRENADA at 237 for assistance or advice. Install surge protectors to safeguard your electrical devices against outages and intermittent surges. For more information, visit grenadac.com.
GRENADA, energizing our Grenada.
Juve chocolates, cocoa nibs, and cocoa balls from Diamond Estate Grenada are now available at Amazon.com, Amazon.ca, Amazon.co.uk, and GrenadaMarket.com. Try their sensational touch of nutmeg and a touch of ginger chocolates, 75% dark and rich, 100% pure cocoa, and their 60% dark and sweet chocolate bars today. Amazon Prime members enjoy free shipping on these orders in the USA, Canada, and Europe. GrenadaMarket.com. When you can't come to the island, the products of the island will come to you.
Alrighty, folks, it's now, let's see here, it's 20 minutes away from the hour. Now, you probably aren't going to believe this. You know, we've been telling you about the challenges we've been facing this morning. And I mentioned to you just before that last break that it seems like the challenges had not ended. Okay? Well, I'll tell you what. You're not going to believe this. WIZZARD and his event organizer, during that last piece that I did, they arrived. They arrived. I had just said to you words to the effect that a solution to all these dropouts this morning would be provided. Right? Well, guess what? If you don't believe me, take a look. Take a look at these two guys. These are the two guys. I told the person who called to arrange the appointment, I told them that they would have to be here this morning at 9:45. Well, wouldn't you believe it? Apparently, they were told 10:45. So, here they are. Gentlemen, good morning.
Good morning, Joe.
All is well?
Yeah, all is well on my side. Let me greet everybody listening to your program and watching your program, whether it's Grenada, region or internationally. And let me say hi, I know my good friend in New York. As a matter of fact,
which one?
But let's see, I was watching you from New York last week Sunday.
Oh, you were?
And I didn't know I would have been on this today.
There you go.
Yeah, so but I know you're listening. So good morning. Good.
Well, when we mentioned a little while ago that you weren't coming, I hope that Bertie didn't drop off and go fishing or something.
Now he watches you regularly.
Oh, he does?
Yeah.
Okay. Why don't you introduce this gentleman next door to you here, Mr. Learrie Barry?
Well, it's a pleasure, George, a pleasure to be in your studios and in your company. You having such a history in the media field. So, firstly, it's a pleasure. Secondly, to all your viewers and listeners, very popular program. I am an ardent listener as well.
Oh, you do?
And I know many ardent listeners around the region and elsewhere. So,
oh boy.
Not to mention his wife.
Yes. But it's a pleasure indeed. And just to not put our coordinator of event booking for media booking for put her into trouble. It was 10:15 we got, so we were a little late.
Yeah.
But we were outside knocking your door, hard knock for a good 10 minutes.
Yeah, I just heard that.
So it was 10:15 she told us, so we were just a few minutes outside that. But it's a pleasure. And we're celebrating 50 years of Calypso Wizardry, and we're doing a concert. That concert is on Friday, August the 2nd. We have a number of activities.
Yeah, wait, hey, slow. You see, first of all, these guys reach here late, and then they're in a hurry, man. Yeah. Well, I'll tell you what, we're going to talk about the concert big time.
Yes.
I want you to tell me about the relationship. How did you two guys hook up? Goes back a long time?
It goes back about, I would say,
about 1991, 92. Around
91, 92. Around 1990.
My mom and dad were only just thinking about having me.
You can't get away with that because I know you're in the villa.
Yes, in the villa. Yes.
Yeah, we come from pretty much the same neighborhood.
Yes. I grew up on Goodings Alley.
Goodings Alley.
That step here.
Just outside here?
Yes.
Okay.
I grew up next to Teacher Blanche and Teacher Vi.
Okay.
Over Jean Phillip, that's Cyril Phillip, and that house on the top of Park Lane. the intersection with Green Street and Park Lane, there's a step. And on the right, on the left going down, there's a house there. It's not there anymore. Well, I grew up just above that house, next to Miss Omega.
Okay.
So I'm an original man from the area.
Okay. So I'm new to this neighborhood.
No,
I
no,
only
no.
came in here 5 years ago.
We have, it's one of ours.
Wiz, let me talk a little bit about you and your background in Calypso. Yeah, we know you come from the Bay Area. I mean,
Ladique, close to you, next to you.
Right, neighborhoods. But we didn't know each other then, did we?
I knew you though.
You knew me?
Yeah, I knew your father and Granby's.
That's right. Daddy used to manage Granby stores.
Right.
And Mommy worked there as well.
Right.
Okay. Now, Calypso. So you grew up in the Ladique area. How did this thing all get started for you? We're celebrating 50 years. How did this get started?
Well, it's always difficult to answer that question because I myself can't say directly when, but I could tell you that from I was about 3 years old, I started to make little, what we call rhymes those days. You know, just make up a few lines and sing, not a whole song, you know. So I would have been about 3 years old at the time. But I grew up in a house that had what we'd call a chantuel. You know, long time, you know about the string band long time.
Yeah.
So obviously, and the string band would have guys making up calypso, their own calypsos and so, and singing, practicing before the carnival day itself. And then on carnival day, they come out in the full glory. So I grew up from an early age with that kind of thing because my uncle used to be one of the string band players. We used to call it pretty mass or sweet mass.
Right.
You make rhyme on what happened in the community during the year. You know, so from this song, you would like this one. Where is the nutmeg bonus? Somebody please tell us. Time that they tell us something to show how we like burning. What I want to know first, I want to know about the surplus. The surplus they had in 66, let's get the matter fixed. I mean, you might have known the history of that. You understand? So whatever happens nationally to a certain extent, but mainly from a community basis, they would sing about it. Beryl, take your thing and go. I don't want you in me place no more. Every day you're going about, saying that I'm bound to shut my mouth. Anything you do, you're right. I don't want no man come home and fight. You know, those kind of things like those, you know. So I grew up with that, really. So, and the good thing is that, unlike now, what Carnival those days used to be January, February, March. So, since Christmas is over, from time January steps in, then you have what you call practicing. Whether it's job, whether it's Wild Indian, whether it's pretty mass, you practice for about a whole month or so.
Yeah.
So, you know, so I get consumed in this kind of thing because I love it. Naturally love it, and then you go into school. You go to school and you sing it to your friends and so. You talk about what happened last night. And you try to imitate some of the singers, you know. Long time they had a style, they put in the hand on the air to sing. So all that I would imitate when I go to school the next day. You know, so, but then it's after I come to realize there's a reason for that.
Okay.
It's just like I have this in my ear right now, and it's making it easier for me to sing.
Yeah.
You know, you get a different feel in your ears. You know, your ear is important for tone.
Yeah.
So they were doing that for tone. So then afterwards I realized why I used to laugh at them, but then I realized what's the reason for that. So that's where I started really. And then on a serious note, in those days we always have a youth club in Learrie. Even though you change, you might start and the last 2 years and the next one perform and stuff. So we had a club called Shadows. We used to play football, cricket, do all sort of things. And we have meeting in the society hall. You know the importance of the society hall?
Yeah.
So that was like the community center in the so in 1969, we were dating this thing from. We decided that we're going to have a Calypso tent in the society hall. A Sunday morning like now. That's when we used to have meetings.
Sunday morning.
Yeah, Sunday morning. We'd have meetings about 10 o'clock every Sunday morning. But you'd have gone to church because those days, church is 6 o'clock in the morning. Because most people would have been Anglican or Catholic in Learrie at the time. So you go to church 6 o'clock, you come back by 8 o'clock, have breakfast, and then you either go and play cricket in the road or something. So you have, you know. But we decided we have club meetings on Sunday morning, and we decided we're going to have a Calypso tent that year. So that's when I started to write in a serious way then, focused writing, if you want to call it that. So you decide you're going to write for occasion, because you have an tent, this is serious business now. So all the guys in the club, almost everybody in the club wrote a song. You know, but for some reason I stood out. And to the other members of the club, they realized what was going on. And there used to be some guys from St. George's used to lie in the country. You know, when the guys, like if you go to GBS, you'll make friends in town. And then they would come up and spend a weekend and so in the country with you. So they were there too. And so some of the guys, I think one was a Sylvester guy, I remember him very well. Flash brother.
Yeah, okay. Sure,
I think George is the first name.
Yeah.
And he was the MC. You know, this guy, you know, the humorous guys. Like the Flash, all the Flash guys are humorous.
Yeah.
So he was the MC, and he knew, and he thought that I was real good. So he knew Melody. That used to run the only Calypso in Grenada at the time was run by Melody. So he decided that I should come to town. You're going to put me on the Melody and so on. He come to town and sing, and that's how we started on the national level in the Calypso tent.
Okay. It's now 50 years. Now, over the years, you've seen a lot of changes in Calypso. It's evolved.
Of course, yes.
Maybe in some ways for the better, maybe in some ways for the worse. I want you to give me your perspective of the evolution that you've seen taking place. From back in your day, and the way you were just describing, to where we are. Let's talk about some of the changes that you have noticed.
On a local level or generally?
General.
All right, well, okay, first of all, in my time, focus was placed on the content, the lyrical content of the song. So Calypso was basically predominantly an art form that you listen to, whether it's at home or whether it's in a show. And then, but also the musical aspect was important because you need road march and so. For carnival, you need carnival music. And even dance, they would play some Calypsos in the dance, in dance and so. But I think the shift has shifted. It's not as lyrically strong. Calypso nowadays is not as lyrically strong as it used to be in the past. I mean, the kind of depth and so you used to have a long time, you don't have it now in Calypso. I mean, and not just the depth, but the width. I mean, when I say the width,
yes.
I mean the variety of compositions and so you used to have like, we'll have to focus more on Trinidad, I mean, to answer that question, because they were in the forefront and they still, to a certain extent, are in the forefront. And we learn a lot from them. But so if for instance, you don't have a cipher now, right? I'm talking about style, right? And I'm just talking about person. Yeah. You don't have a cipher, you don't have a rush shot yet. What Kitchener has gone to, you know, Kitchener. You have a Kitchener. I could even go back before that and say we don't have that humor guy. I mean, what's the name again? I can't remember his name.
Zandoli.
No, well, Zandoli is one, and then the one who sing about talking backward and what's his name and all that. You see, so that's kind of wit.
Yes.
That kind of depth, wit, and so we used to have a long time. We don't have it in Calypso now because.
Spoiler,
that's the name I was going to look at. I remember, Spoiler.
So
all these guys, and so we don't have that replacement for them. Funny to a certain extent, I mean, does a very fine job. But funny is funny, but still. Yeah. But funny is funny. So in terms of the content, as I said, we have lost a lot in that respect because even nowadays, people tend to sing more political songs when it comes to Calypso and general humor on other social issues and stuff, right? So
I was going to get to you on that because earlier on in the conversation you mentioned to me that back in your day, the heyday, you guys spoke a lot about what was happening in the community.
Other social issues.
Okay, right. And Elwyn, look, maybe to some extent that is still happening today. But back in your day, it seemed to have been done from a different perspective. One, yes, you reported on what was happening, but you did it in a humorous way. There was a lot of satire.
Definitely.
Okay. Today, Elwyn, kind of vicious, eh, boy?
No, it's true because, well, one, it could be because lack of skill, and two, lack of understanding of the history of the art form, and three, because the society has become so political that people, I mean, use that medium to, you know, they follow the politicians, they come out straight and, you know, they themselves don't have no wit, much wit. As compared to, let's say, a Manley or a Bonham or Eric Williams. Yes. And so they're different. Even the politicians, they don't have no wit. They come out straight and talk nonsense.
Yeah.
So, so maybe the artists follow the politicians, probably.
But George, permit me to jump in here on this question. We also have a decline in the educational foundations on which the wit wizard talking about, that range of topics that one would have written on, and the way persons who would sing about it would have been influenced by literature. And literature has seen a decline at the school level. So when I talk to my daughter today about about the type of literature books they read and the extent to which they have to write on literature, it is not the way it used to be. Because in those days, we read a lot. There was a wide range of topics that we read on. So that when you want to make skill and guile in a calypso, it also came from when you read literature, the style of the poet, for example, would have helped you to create a type of diction and language and similes and metaphors. That's what Spoiler and those guys did. They didn't have to be teachers and academics. They listened to community conversation. They listened to the thing around the community, and they understood how people spoke. And Spoiler spoke about great philosophers, in his calypsos. But they were able to, they talk about Shakespeare, and they were able to use some of the same vehicles to create imagery. The writers today do not, and that is because they are not as widely read, and that the students coming out of the school system do not have that breadth.
Learrie, let me ask you something. You talk about them not being as widely read. That is something I debate, because let me tell you, today people are reading a lot. Social media, what do you think you're doing? Reading.
Yes.
Reading.
Yes.
But it's the style, it's the content.
Indeed. The content does not have the range of use of literary devices that would have helped you to create calypsos, to create poems. Listen, George, in Trinidad and Tobago, there's a program that is funded by the First Citizens Bank called Poetry Slam, but it's the spoken word variant. That spoken word variant is prose. That's what we used to have back in the days of Jarvis and Miss out of Sates, Miss Robbie. When they were in the Ministry of Culture, and we used to have ongoing arts festival, you had poetry as a major feature of it. Today, and there were students who did prose. You're just speaking on a topic, but you're using a lot of alliterations and similes and metaphors, and you're using sentence structures that have a combination of rhyme pattern, but there was not so much poetry as in a nice piece of prose on a particular topic. In Trinidad, they have revolutionized prose. Call it spoken word, but in that you find so much of the devices that we would have loved to see in Calypso. It's happening in spoken word. Yeah. I have been to a couple of the finals. I was at the finals this year in May at the Napa in Port of Spain. The place was filled. 90% of the 600 plus people inside there were youths, and they were wowed. If you just Google 2 Cents Movement in Trinidad and you take up some of the clips of spoken word from the last 5 years, George, all those pieces by Spoiler and Zandoli and so on, it is given fresh meaning in a lot more political currency. It's more contemporary, but the style is there. It's in spoken word. It's just that we don't have poetry as part of our approach. We not reading Nutmeg Princess by Ricardo Keynes. There's a Calypsonian a guy who did a series of soca jab music. His name is Sinner. He writes children's books using jab as his main hero character. When you read his books, which is doing well out there, and you could Google it and see how much it's selling on Amazon, these books are not in our schools. So that when we want to write, we have to write to suit the type of children and their outlook and their worldview and their worldviews in the classroom. And teachers, we don't have the kinds of teachers. I went to school in an era with Victor Ashby who used language and spoke with a certain amount of adroitness, pronunciation, emphasis on syntax. That helps you as a student, because when we WIZZARD talk about mimicking them guys where they had on the airs. WIZZARD spoke about talking about the nutmeg and the issues of the community, but you heard the level of language and style WIZZARD was using, because the community had that kind of appreciation then. You do not find that kind of appreciation now. And that kind of appreciation is diminished when you look at using social media. You're cutting thanks to TKS. You're cutting words to know 2 and 3 letters of the word to convey meaning. If that is the young people's expression today, you would not get the kinds of guile and skill that you got in Calypsos of old. Because the writer and the singer now are both in an era where the level of style and the level of flair is not there. So don't expect it to be seen if it's not part of what we do now. Don't expect it to be part of the output. And then when you push aside Paul Kings Douglas, when you push aside, listen, I have to be careful, because George, if you didn't stop me, I'll keep going, you know.
Well, I don't want to stop you, but I really want to pick up on a couple of things that you were mentioning, because, you know, you were talking about the style being there in Trinidad, but somehow it seems to be lacking here. You talk about people not bothering with books like Ricky's book, the
Nutmeg
Princess or whatever.
And other books he's written.
Okay. Wiz, I want to turn back to you for just a sec. I mean, it shows, he mentioned a Calypsonian by the name of Sinner. Okay? I mean, even in the names. come on.
And George, let me give you the spelling. S-Y-N-N-A-H. S-Y-N-N-A-H.
Can't get it right. Can't get it right. But Wiz, I mean, look, your name, you've been WIZZARD all along?
No.
What were you before?
I had a few names before. But I started this thing, I said, when I was very young, when I was in school. So I used to like Spanish. It used to be one of my favorite subjects. So I called myself El Estudiante, the student. You know?
You know a guy named John Willow? Are you related to him by any chance?
No, he lived in Venezuela, so you know, he's luckier than me. I would have loved to grow up in a Spanish country just for the language.
Okay, so you had that name, but today you're WIZZARD. I mean, today we have Killer. At one time, Baby Killer.
Yeah.
Come on, I mean, come on. Does the change have to be that dramatic?
No, but not so much a change, but Calypsonians like to take funny names over, I mean, historically, they like funny names. Like one called it Lord Funny.
I don't have a problem with that.
I mean, funny, but not, I mean, I agree with you.
But also they take names of bravado.
Bravado.
And they take names of royalty.
Royalties, yes. Or you might take a name opposite to your height, like Rashad, yeah. But he's a very tall guy.
But there's something humorous.
I mean, that's what I mean. That's what I'm trying to say.
Okay, but you will take names like Crocro. Crocro is a type of fish in local parlance in Trinidad. Crocro is a type of fish. Chogda sang a calypso called The Fishmonger, and he was speaking about Crocro. Crocro meets sweet. I bought Crocro in the Tunapuna market in Trinidad. It's a nice fish, but I had them fillet it because they have some bones. If they juke you're in a lot of pain. So Crocro represented, I will juke you, and when I juke you, go feel pain.
Yeah.
So there were names associated with intent.
Sure.
Certain types of names. So Baby Killer did not. The name Baby Killer was not to be interpreted as violent conduct. The name Baby Killer was associated with a small, but I could do damage to big guys in the soca arena.
Okay, that's an interpretation.
Indeed.
That interpretation not being explained, okay, you can surely understand why the connotation.
Indeed.
Especially when you hear the name promoting Grenada. I mean, come on. Please.
Yes.
Now, I don't want to forget the folks on Facebook. Margaret is a Trini. Grew up here in Grenada, born in Trinidad, grew up here in Grenada, and now she lives in New York. And she's listening to you, and she's asking here, what do you think is responsible for the loss of width and depth in Calypso soca today?
Well, I guess Learrie answered it to a great extent. Learrie answered it. But I think you mentioned the cultural decline in the community.
Yes.
So because
not just culturally, moral.
Well, right.
Arranged.
But when I say culturally, for instance, I want to piggyback on Learrie in that. Let's take, for instance, the time we grew up with our parents telling us stories. Grandparents and parents telling us stories. That is lacking. Then we had riddles, and we had parables, and also all those things, and helped you to write. Even if you didn't go to school and study literature, there was literature around you. Right? There was literature around you in the spoken word. Right? So you learn that. So even in Trinidad, for instance, almost everybody in Trinidad could be an MC. Yeah. How many MCs do we have in Grenada? Good MCs, but the average Trinidad could go on a stage and be an MC. Because it's that kind of oral tradition.
George, permit me to add something quickly because I don't want it to be lost upon our audience. The character and imagery that came out of the community translated to Juve morning. So that what came out of the community was on display Juve morning during Old Mass and during certain representations on Juve morning. So for example, today, the last of the real people that are doing this still is Cafe Ball, where he takes all those issues of the day and put them in beautifully kind phrases on his placards, and you get a laugh out of them. It is still happening, but you do not see reproductions of that any time after Juve morning. You don't see any of Cafe Ball's work. In other words, when young people go in to do CXC exams, and you do not take a photo of a piece of Old Mass representation on placard, put it in the student exam sheet and said, interpret this, you could never have the width and depth continuing. George, let me tell you something. We have sacrificed what we know. I have a young lady, a good friend of mine, who asked me to buy a book. We couldn't find a book for her child. Her child is in Form 1, going to Form 2. So I was in Trinidad, and I went to a couple of the bookstores looking for the book. And I found the book. And I read right in the bookstore. I just bought the book, it's $99. And I decided to read right there the introduction. And then there was an epilogue. So I read both. And I shook my head. The author, just hear this for a minute, George. I don't remember the author name. The author was writing about historical England and Ireland and the school system there, and how certain types of abuse and scenarios impacted her. And today, which is like in the 2000s, she is revisiting the places that she grew up. And that is what is represented in the book. George, you telling me that schools in Grenada is using that author as a compulsory book for literature in this country, and you want to have Calypso with Depp and Whip still? Don't start me now, man.
Okay. Margaret also goes on to say, Trinidad has a history of spoken word ever since I was a kid. Of course, it wasn't called spoken word then.
Indeed.
There were elocution competitions.
Well, tell her she should be proud of the spoken word.
You tell her, she's listening to you.
Look, be proud. Margaret is her name?
Yeah, look right there.
Margaret, be proud. Be proud. The first Citizens Poetry Slam. Just go on 2 Cents Movement Facebook page. You will be proud of the progression of spoken word over the last 5 years. It has taken on a level of quality in terms of the ability and skill of the writers are phenomenal, and they're all young people. It's a joy. I try not to miss it. It's a fantastic thing. It's something that I'm hoping we could do in Grenada and develop those young people doing poetry in Grenada. There are a couple of young people doing good poetry, but we need an avenue, and we need to build it to the spoken word level, which is not just the rhyme patterns that's typically associated with poetry, but a little more than that. And they cover a lot of topics, but the way they put the double meaning on the topics, it will blow your mind. Blow your mind. There were hundreds of young people in Napa and Port of Spain screaming at some of the poetry slam contestants' pieces. Screaming, George. I was there and I was happy.
Wayne Francis, you know Wayne?
Name from here?
I guess so. Wayne says, that's a very big problem in Grenada, a deep appreciation for artists. And you know, I guess it must feel really good to you, Wiz, you know, that such a big fuss is being made about your 50th anniversary. Just, I think 2 weeks ago, Ricky Keynes Douglas was honored in Washington for the work that he has been doing, you know.
Yes.
But not too often you hear about us.
True.
Kind of shameful, isn't it?
That's true.
George, give me a quick word again.
Okay, quickly, because I want to share some other stuff here.
Yes, George, there are pockets of very good work happening in Grenada. We cannot have that lost upon our audience. I spoke about Cafe Bowl and the Old Mass, and some of that will continue. But there's a Calypsonian, 13 years in the business, called Sour Serpent. Another name that you'll wonder, what the hell is this? But Sour Serpent does calypsos still that has elements of the spoiler, Zandoli, Blakey progression to funny still today. But the persona, the bravado, the flair in which it can be delivered may be why those calypsos are not getting a lot of wow reactions. He is writing calypsos that are unbelievably still rich with the vehicles and literary devices from then to now. He is the last that is holding the contemporary aspects of that old-time tradition together.
WIZZARD, let me tell you, Wayne says, "Good morning, Grenada legend. Your contribution to art and culture is deeply appreciated." So there's some people out there who notice.
Of course, thanks, Wayne.
Margaret says, "I'm glad you mentioned Cafe Bull. And the fact that after Juve morning, those old mass costumes are forgotten. They should become museum pieces. Happens in Trinidad. Maybe a carnival and arts museum is needed in Grenada."
Well, George, if we have a museum now where we're not adding new pieces, that we're not expanding, that we're not giving a lot of prominence, you ain't gonna get any additional museum. The one you have, we're supposed to be doing a lot more. We're supposed to be expanding it. We're supposed to be engaging in a wider range of smaller museum branches. Grenada has had the same museum since what? Since
Lanekane.
Since Lanekane. In other words, if Lord Moyne, when Lord Moyne came to do the commission report, 1938, and we moved from colony, crown colony to state to the experiment with Federation, Carifta, and then we moved to independence after 1 from 10 left north, all of which Calypso has covered. You know, Calypso is the greatest archive in the world. It is the only archive that is not in a central place. Calypso is the only archive that's not in a central place. So all the things I talk in here, you have it in Calypso.
Go ahead.
Just to say, that museum then is the same museum today. We are collectively responsible for that state of affairs. Collectively we are. And George, I don't want to get started there, so we continue with it.
You know somebody named Lydia James?
Indeed.
Lydia says, "Hi, Learrie, how are you? Good seeing you."
Good, Lydia, I'm good.
Donna Antoine says, "I have followed the spoken word last couple of years, and it is evolving more. It is evolving more and more. Distinguished program. Kudos to the Trinidadian youths." Hey, Mashida Phillip, good morning, good to see you. Okay, I'll tell you what, guys. We don't have an awful lot of time because, oh boy, hold on a sec here. Here comes Ernesto. Ernesto says, "Congratulations, Black Wizard." Hold on a minute. There's something that's popping up on the screen now. Really shouldn't be there. And I want to try and get this little bugger out of there. There goes that little bugger. Now, congratulations, Black Wizard. You're a champion of the art form, and I salute you for the great contributions you made to keep Calypso alive in Grenada. And although you may be getting younger.
Thanks.
Ernesto, you lie. Although you may be getting younger, you're making sure that the art form doesn't end up in the grave, and I'm proud of you. Happy 50th anniversary, legend.
Thanks.
Yeah. All right, guys, first of all, Emma Ventor says, "Hi, Wizard, always the best from SAS school days."
Well, actually, I won my first gong in SAS in 1971.
1971. I wasn't even born. Okay, let me say this. You're filling in, if you will, for somebody by the name of Dennis Charles, who we were supposed to be talking to from New York. We had been trying to establish contact, and it didn't work out. I see now that he has popped up, and but unfortunately, we also have a segment with the Minister of Education.
Okay.
So when I'm through talking with you guys, I am going to go over to New York and talk with Denis, and we are going to reschedule something.
Yes.
Okay.
Right. Yes.
But I have to get that piece in about the CPEA results. Having said that, talk to me now about how we're celebrating this 50th anniversary.
Well, that's the man.
Right. Two major events. We have a concert on Friday, August 2nd. That concert will feature some of our best local Calypsonians, some of the best out of Trinidad, Chogdas, Gypsy. Gypsy will do a special extempo tribute to WIZZARD, and we'll also have a special extempo shootout with the current extempo champion of Trinidad, which is Brian London, and Gypsy having won 10 extempo titles. So we have that special element there. We have Relator, and Relator is going to do, Relator have a unique way of reinterpreting if Billy Eckstein or Louis Armstrong were to be doing a calypso. This is how it would be done. So he's going to take a couple of WIZZARD choruses and do it that way as part of the special presentation he's bringing to WIZZARD concert. So Gypsy, Chogdas, Relator, King Short Shot out of Antigua, back to Trinidad, Luther, Bali, Poser. We have a whole cast coming up. Good local cast. On the soca side, we have Mandela, Links, Louis Back, and Electrify. It's a nice combination. And we have some special aspects. WIZZARD will be doing O Grenada with the PBC choir. That's something to look forward to. We're also going to be having the 3 female Calypso monarchs. Grenada has had 4 female Calypso monarchs to date. 1 is abroad. The 3 that's here, they're going to be doing WIZZARD's together. They're going to be doing WIZZARD's Woman as part of their presentation on Friday, August 2nd at that concert. It's called 50 Years of Calypso Wizardry, the concert, Friday, August 2nd. And then in November, we have a really special package. We have a book launch. That book launch is going to feature WIZZARD memoirs, and some of what you just heard from WIZZARD is in the book. We're also going to have a public lecture. The public lecture will be David Rudder. He will deliver the lecture. The book,
David Rudder?
The David Rudder. November 9th, Saturday, November 9th. We're going to make a splash about that too. Former prosecutor of Grenada, public prosecutor, and now High Court Judge of Trinidad and Tobago, Justice Malcolm Holdip. He is a reviewer of the book. We're also going to have a special book associated with 50 years of Calypso Wizardry. That's a second book we launched at the same time. We put in the lyrics of 50 of those Calypsos, the best of WIZZARD. And we're going to have a small paragraph on each by me. So we're launching that as well. We're going to have a fun time in November. We're going to also have a special assembly at SAS. That special assembly, we are going to invite some of the WIZZARD contemporaries to be at that special assembly. We're going to also...
I'm glad this is not a one-off thing. This is not a
No, we're going to the March.
Man.
We started on GBN Radio on March 13 this year with media talks. WIZZARD have done so many. We did empty. We're now on your station. We're doing a lot of media talks, and that's part of the strategy. But we have events. We're going to have a community activity as well up in Ladig, and we're going all the way till March 13, 2020. So we have a lot of Sundays to be back.
All right. Somebody listening to you guys in New Jersey right now by the name of Gloria Hobbins. I mean, she's so impressed with the conversation we're having here this morning. She says, this is an education.
Thank you, Gloria.
All right. I see here where Wayne Francis says, can't wait to get my hands on your memoir.
Sure.
November.
Okay.
Yes.
And I hope you're going to come back around that time and talk with us.
Well, we're coming back before the show on Friday, August 2nd. You have to bring us on.
Okay. And Margaret was asking, when is this? And she says, never mind. He answered. Okay.
Tickets are already on GoToFet, so all of those persons who coming in for Carnival, please buy your tickets now. It's only $50. It's a special, $50 for WIZZARD at 50. And you will have about 50 Calypsos from across the Grenada and the region. Fantastic, fantastic, fantastic.
Okay. Robert Chumbum? Robert Chumbum Reynolds? You know that person?
I don't. I know a Chum Boom from GBS's days, but he's
okay,
a Walter.
Chum Boom.
Maybe. I'm not sure. I'm not sure.
Anyhow, Robert says, happy 50th, Wizard. Congratulations on the milestone. Larry, you're looking good too, bro.
Yeah, I get this Chum Boom. I respect it.
And Rafael George says, Muscles is here too.
Muscles, yes.
Another Ladi
Calypsonian. Yes.
Hey guys, listen, man. Congratulations.
Yeah.
Now, Wizard, at the top of the program this morning, I mentioned how much fun it always is when you come to sit here and talk with me. I love having you on this program. Elimus Gilbert?
Yes, the inspector.
Elimus Gilbert?
The inspector. In fact, Specky is going to do a special medley. Let me tell you what we're doing, George. On Friday, the 2nd of August, Specky is going to do a special medley of Specky music coming through the years with Black WIZZARD and Ajam. WIZZARD and Ajam is going to do a special on the show as well, you know. It's going to be plenty pressure, you know. But I want to mention Specky because Specky doing that medley. And when Specky finish that medley on Friday, we're going all the way to Specky's, I got to say Specky Sunday, Specky show on Sunday in the bus terminal in Grenville. So that weekend is Specky and WIZZARD. One line.
Specky, you had to come and see me. You had to come and see me, you know, Specky.
Oh, Specky have singing Sandra, and singing Sandra is the woman's calypso liberator. She is on with Specky. So while we are Chocolates and others down in town, we're going with Sandra by Specky on the Sunday.
Elimus says he will be there. Okay? Ernesto says, we're hearing about all the activities for WIZZARD, but how are we in the diaspora going to be a part of this action? Could it be taped and distributed in the diaspora?
Yes, let me say quickly, I already started with Enos McDonald on, so you could just Google Enos McDonald and the Labby FM with Orlando.
Yeah.
Right? So there is some recorded pieces already that Enos McDonald is going to be running. Bertie Leslie is also going to be helping us with some outreach. We also on Soul Vibes Radio. We have some stuff on Soul Vibes Radio, and we're going to try to get onto
96.3.
96.3. We're going to try to get onto that station as well to keep the diaspora engaged.
Okay.
Yes.
All right.
Yes.
Guys, listen, it's been a slice, but I'm under time constraints.
Great.
No problem.
Great.
Wiz, you two, Larry, you guys come on back anytime you're ready.
Yeah.
All right, sure.
Anytime.
Yeah.
Thanks.
All right.
Indeed.
Thanks a lot.
Great.
Thanks.
Good.
Now you can unsaddle yourself, if you will. Now, having said that, take a look at this character here. Look at this gentleman here. This is none other than Mr. Denis Charles. Look at that smile. He's smiling from ear to ear. Good morning, Denis.
Good morning, sir.
How are you?
I'm doing fine.
Boy, it looks like, you know, the gremlins are at work today, but thank God we got you on. I'll tell you what. Let me say, first of all, Denis, I would like us to, I apologize that we're not able to get on earlier on, but we also had another a no-show earlier on. Gremlins are at work. Can you, hello?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Okay, great. I would like us to start by saying that we're going to reschedule this. How about that?
Okay, go ahead.
Okay. Before I let you go, though, I want you to give our viewers and listeners a sort of tip as to what you really want to talk about, because it's very important. You're trying to show people that how to create wealth. And I think a lot of people are going about it the wrong way. That's why they're not succeeding, right?
That's correct. That's correct. We have been told that we should go to school, get a degree or perhaps a certificate in something, and then find a job. Maybe put in about 40 years, dedicated work, retire happily into the middle class. That doesn't work. That is not how you create wealth. And before I start, I want to say good day to everyone, especially our Grenadian viewers, some of my Facebook friends at home, and also in the diaspora. Okay? First of all, wealth is created by two things.
Now, we're not going to get into that too deeply, because remember, I still have to get the minister on, so we only have about 2 minutes or so.
Okay.
Okay, but I really want us to reschedule, and I hope you'll get in touch with me tomorrow or whenever, and we can reschedule something. Okay, maybe next Sunday.
Okay.
All right. But yes, it's an issue. Continue the thought you were just about to enunciate.
Yes. I would not get too deep, but as I said, it's something that we should really know. It's not taught in school, and we sort of work ourselves to death. Hypertension, high blood pressure, stress levels, whatever you want to call it. 2 jobs sometimes. We do overtime, we do multiple shifts, fighting to make a better day for ourselves, and it's just not happening.
Make ends meet.
We're just not doing it.
And I hope you'll get in touch with me tomorrow or whenever, and we can reschedule something.
I would do that. I would do that.
All right.
All right, cool.
But yes, it's an issue. I don't know where that audio is coming from, Dennis. Do you have something turned on in your studio there?
Well, I should say that just look forward to another announcement, another time, another date, and we would come back again and discuss the issue of wealth. I also wanted to do something on Grenada in terms of poverty and lack of opportunities, accountability and stuff like that, especially for the youth, the high unemployment rate in Grenada. So you and I will talk, and we would reschedule and put it out there for another time.
Why don't we, what I can tell you right now is that I would like to do it as soon as next Sunday.
Next Sunday is good with me. I'll put it down on my schedule.
Okay, so 9:45 next Sunday morning, Mr. Denis Charles.
Okay, you got it.
Okay. Thanks a lot, Dennis, and please again accept my apologies for not being able to get you on earlier. Okay, folks. Whoa, what a morning! But you guys are getting used to the surprises on this program, aren't you? Huh? In fact, everything we do on Grenada Broadcast, because it's not just on this program, it's happening also on Good Day Grenada, on McWeChat, a lot of things. Well, I'll tell you what. We are now going to take a little break here, and then we're going to come back with some talk about the CPEA results, the 2019 results, which came out this past week.
It's good to be early. Good to be early. Pay your GRENADA bill on time.
With free island-wide delivery, Hubbard's Building Supplies and Lumber Departments continue to provide the best quality lumber, steel, tiles, plumbing materials, electrical, and general hardware supplies at competitive prices. We continually consult with builders, homeowners, and contractors to improve product range and services. Enjoy discounts where applicable, including the use of credit and debit cards. At Hubbard's Building Supplies, Grandance, and Lumber Department, Caranage, we offer quality service, affordable prices, giving you the convenient, reliable, free island-wide delivery. Call 440-2087 for all your home improvement and building solutions.
This summer, make your dreams a reality with a Co-op Bank Summer Sizzle Loan. Get up to $20,000 and qualify for a chance to win a staycation at Silver Sands. Go on a vacation. Enjoy the carnival season. Have your dream wedding or make home improvements. Make this summer sizzle with everything you want it to be. Visit your nearest retail banking unit for more details. Special terms and conditions apply.
All right. Coming up on 11:30 on this Sunday morning, the 23rd day of June. Pilgrims, our final segment for today's edition of Good Day Grenada. It's a summary of the CPEA 2019 results. But not only that, you're going to hear the Education Minister, Emmalyn, Pierre, talk about an announcement which was made at this past week's post-cabinet briefing about the prohibition of sale of alcohol at school functions. In this piece, which runs, maybe about 25 minutes or so, the minister is accompanied by a representative of the Education Unit in the Ministry of Education, a gentleman by the name of Jennel Mitchell, and from the Drug Control Unit, gentleman by the name of Dave Alexander. I want you to listen carefully to a lot of what is being said here, okay? Unfortunately, because we're running out of time, we may not have time to get all your comments in, but I see there are a lot of comments about the segment we just completed a short while ago with WIZZARD. I still haven't been able to get to, but we're getting a little bit backed up. So, right now, the Minister with responsibility for education, Emmalyn, Pierre.
As was indicated before, the much anticipated results came in on Saturday night, and I want to repeat that. Last Saturday night, there's a perception that the results were available more than a week ago and that the government did not release the results. I want to reassure the public and to express this morning that this is so far from the truth, that the results were only released on Saturday night, and I want to take the opportunity to commend and to say special thank you to the exams unit headed by Mrs. Michelle Peters-George. Of course, Mr. Mitchell here, who is a member of that unit, would tell you that it required the team to work all day on Sunday and into the very late night. When I got a brief, it was at about 2:30 a.m., which indicates to me around the time that they were finished. Because once you get the data, of course, you have to do the assignment of schools. So their goal was to have the results released to the Grenadian public on Monday morning, and I'm so extremely proud of that department and the work that they did to facilitate that, because we probably might have been getting it today about midday if they did not sacrifice their Sunday. And mindful that that was also Father's Day. So we apologize to you, Mr. Mitchell. I want to also use the opportunity this morning to say that we had a total 147 students who did not receive placement in secondary school. To those students and, of course, their parents, I want to say to them, it is not the end of the world. There's always a second chance that is provided. And for those who might not be able to sit the same exam next year, of course, there will be other opportunities for those persons. So I want to urge teachers, parents, the general public to encourage them, motivate them, give them a reason that they can go on. Of course, that number decreased from the year before, which was 198, but of course, Mr. Mitchell would provide us with more details. One of my concerns is always the conversations that we don't have about those who were not successful. And this morning, I want to make this commitment on behalf of the Ministry of Education that in the new school year, we are going to be placing far more emphasis in terms of support and monitoring within our schools to ensure that we support particularly students like those who probably need that extra support within the school system to ensure that every learner succeeds, but more so to ensure that no child is left behind. But another critical point that must be noted is the challenges that many of our students face when they go to our secondary schools. And again, we have to ensure that we increase measures, that we put additional measures in place to support some of those students. And we have to announce in the new school year some of the additional measures Many of our students, of course, they do well, they pass, they move on. But the question is what happened to them after they move on to secondary school. And we know that there are challenges there, we know there are problems, and we have to do something more than we have been doing to address some of those issues and challenges. Of course, transfers, that's always an issue. I had to try to use the back door this morning to escape the number of people attempting to approach me as it relates to transfers. And I want to say this, I take absolutely no part as it relates to transfer of students. As a matter of fact, I looked at the numbers last night of students assigned, and I got very concerned about the expectations when it comes to transfers, because already the numbers are extremely high. So if you're talking about transfers, you're talking about additional persons, and I'm talking about transfers to schools that are normally the schools that most persons would be requesting a transfer to. I don't think persons should raise their expectations at all based on the numbers that I'm seeing. It appears that many persons were able to get their first choice, and of course we can only accommodate a certain number of persons, and there are guidelines, there are policies that dictates the persons who would be granted a transfer. And of course Mr. Mitchell can expand further on that because it has not changed to what it was last year. The other announcement I want to make this morning has to do with the reason why Mr. Alexander is here, which has to do with drug and alcohol policy as it relates to our schools. And I want to use the opportunity to also recognize Mr. Alexander, recognize the drug control unit within the ministry for the hard work. The work they've been doing, not just locally. Mr. Alexander has been leading a number of initiatives regionally and internationally, and I want to recognize them for their work there. But this morning I want to announce, while he will go into a number of other areas, given a synopsis, I want to specifically refer to two changes that will happen as we seek to implement this policy from September 2019. The Ministry of Education, Human Resource Development and Religious Affairs expressly forbids the possession, use, sale, and distribution of intoxicating liquor, commonly referred to as alcoholic drinks, tobacco products, hemp, controlled drugs, electronic cigarettes, e-cigarettes, or any mood-altering substances, or any product, including juices, water, food, confectionaries, which may contain any of the four aforementioned substances or drugs. That has to do with not just schools, organizations, groups, or persons affiliated to schools at school functions. So as of September 2019, schools will not be allowed to sell alcoholic beverages at their school functions. In addition to that, I also want to refer to the consumption or the possession of those substances. It would also be forbidden for persons including teachers, school support staff, including counselors, librarians, school security officers, visitors, parents or guardians, or any persons who use school premises during school function to be using or having in their possession those said items. We wish to appeal for the support of the general public. We wish to appeal for the support of our principals and teachers as we enforce this policy from September 2019. I've had some persons ask the question, so how will we make money? And I want to challenge Mr. Alexander. We can engage the small business unit, we can engage other stakeholders to facilitate some kind of coming together of principles to discuss best practices, to discuss alternative sources of raising revenue within our schools, and we seek to appeal to our principals and teachers, the Grenada Union of Teachers, for their full support in this regard. So at this time, Press Secretary, I want to have the exam unit go into some more details about the exam.
Thank you, Madam Minister, and pleasant good morning to members of the media. I too would want to add my congratulations to all of the nation's students who have been successful in this year's CPEA exams, and likewise the hardworking teachers and parents and all of the stakeholders who ensured that our students would have performed at their very best. So we just want to say congratulations. As the Minister would have stated, it was a challenge to ensure that we get the results out on time for cabinet meeting yesterday. And it took us, I'd say, way into early hours of the morning. But it is something that we ensure that we do what we need to do to ensure that everyone is happy. You know, the results do not belong to the Ministry of Education. It does not belong to the examinations unit, but it's out there for the schools. It belongs to the students, and no way we will do anything to, you know, have that anxiety and all these kind of things happening. So we ensure that we worked really hard to ensure that it was out yesterday early. As has been stated, we had 1,799 students being successful in this year's exams, and they all had to be placed. Last year, we placed 1,808, just a difference of 9 thereabout, yes? So you see the numbers, it's not far apart, but significantly though, if you look at the percentage pass, it's even higher this year as compared to last year. Last year, we had 2,026 students registered to write that exam. And of that, 1,808 was successful. This year, we had, 1,931 students writing the exams, and we had 1,799 being successful. And there we see that where it was 89.2% pass last year, this year we had a 92.4% of our students obtaining that 50% or above mark to enter into our secondary school. So we can definitely say we've had some improvements. Likewise, an area that was of some concern last year, and we heard a lot about it, the whole aspect of the civics, the social studies that came on board. And last year, we only had 54.66 students attaining 50% or above in that exam, basically, all right, passing that exam. But when we look at the stats this year, it's almost a 10-point increase. We had 64.20. So that's a massive increase. So that tells us that based on what would have happened last year, teachers, they would have gone back into the syllabus, gone back into the curriculum guide, looked at the requirements, and they would have taught the curriculum guide. And this is one of the things I always promote. The exams, it is basically set on the curriculum guide that we use, all right? So we know it was new, and it is my expectations that the passing percentage is going to go even higher. Maths, likewise, mathematics, moving from 54.13, it moved to 55. Even though it's minimal, but it is a step in the right direction. It is definitely a step in the right direction. Science continues to be one of the better performing areas, even though there is a decline. It still continues to be one of the better performing areas, and we had 67.64% of our students gaining passes in that exam area. Now, the whole aspect of placement, as you are well aware, we always cater for the whole aspect of transfer, because we know not everyone will be fully satisfied where we place the students. When we do the placement, we don't know who you are. We don't know who the parents are. We don't know who the students are, and there are guidelines for it. But it is always a challenge, not in the outer parishes per se, you know. Most of the challenges are here in St. George's. And if I were to give you some basic stats, Presentation Brothers College, they have a capacity of 70. When we looked at the top 300 students, 74 of them were in that. It's only one extra child that got that, and we gave them 75. So lots of persons are going to come for transfer for Presentation Brothers College, but we would want to ask the question, where are we going to put them? They do not have the space. And the policy tells us that out of the top 300, each of them, they're placed on merit. So anyone in the top 300, it doesn't matter which part of the island you're from, you get your first place. So that's how we operate. St. Joseph's Convent, they say to us 90. That's what they say to us, right? And they're right. But top places, 99. So already we have given them more than they can take. So people will come for transfers, but it is our hands are tied. There's absolutely nothing we can really do about it. There's a challenge. And just as a reminder, all right, it's a reminder, the first 300 students will be placed according to merits, all right, which is based on performance. So top 300, and if you were to look at the release that was sent out, you'll see we went up to 305, all right, to capture that top 300 because of the ties and everything that were happening there. We had a number of ties. So that's the first and the main criteria for you to get your first place. You may say, well, that child did not come in the top 300, however, they got the first place. And that's where the next criterion comes in. It says the remaining hundreds of students will be placed based on a scheme of zoning. So you'll be placed on a scheme of zoning. So for example, I might be living right in Tantin Terrace. My position probably could have been 1,000. Because of I live right there, chances are Anglican High School would be the school I'm going to get. All right? So that's what happens with the zoning. So it is not based on performance. It is not based on performance. Yes, transfers are given. There are a few students who will be considered for transfers. But to go into some of the same schools that you're asking, the chances might be very, very limited. However, we also look at certain circumstances that the placement forms would not say to us. So, for example, a student may, based on the location of the school, the environment, there might be certain elements within the environment that may trigger sickness with medical report. These are things we have to look at. All right? So there are a number of things. You already might be looking for access. Like, let's say we have someone who is immobile, who is in a wheelchair. There are some schools, like Anglican High School, for example, they can better accommodate such a child because we may put a child in a particular school that does not have that. So we would have to transfer in such a case. And these are things we communicate with the principals, with the parents. So there are a number of things that are looked at. And let me hasten to add, when the transfer takes place, it's not one person also that is looking at the transfer. As a matter of fact, you may only have one person from the unit. You have a panel of about 6 or 7 persons throughout the Ministry of Education who sit and they look at the transfers. They would do the shortlisting based on merit, based on what is being asked for, and then the decisions are made. So in that light, likewise, we're asking parents, yes, we know that you've dropped in your transfer forms, but we're asking you to bear with us because there's a window for persons to drop in those forms, and thereafter they're looked at. And it is not a matter of first comes, first serve. It's based on the needs, and these are the things we basically look at. So from the examinations unit, we try to accommodate everyone as best as we can. We try to make everyone happy, but there is only so much we can do. And once again, we just want to congratulate all of the students who have been successful in the exams, and the journey has just begun. All right, the journey has just begun, so let's continue working hard. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Mitchell. Certainly some good insight today into the statistics as it relates to the exams and the comparisons to last year's performance. I would now like to turn the floor over to Mr. Dave Alexander of the Drug Control Unit, who I'm sure will expound on some of the pronouncements that the Minister would have made earlier, and also give us any other details as it relates to your program area.
Thank you very much, and good morning to the distinguished members of the head table and to the media. Let me also extend my congratulations to all the students and the teachers for their hard work during the recent sitting of the exam, and to encourage the students to continue to apply themselves to be successful. I wish to inform the Minister that the exams unit took a day and a half to get the results finalized. But the Drug Control Secretariat took almost 3.5 years revising the school's policy on drugs. So I'm not sure which one put in more work, but but that's the process. That's the process. In fact, when we formulated the first school's policy in 2002, that first process took about 4 years. And then in 2015, when we began to revise the process, or the policy, again, about 3 or so years. So here we are with the revised and updated schools policy on drugs for 2018 to 2023. The revised policy includes a number of new initiatives, new areas to be addressed. Back in 2002, we did not have the issue of electronic cigarettes or e-cigarettes. Well, with the revision, we had to take that into consideration. We have received reports of some students who were involved in such a practice. In fact, one parent even contacted us and indicated that he saw his child with this device and he did not know what it was about. So we had to look at that particular issue. Again, we had to re-emphasize the issue of the sale of alcohol at school functions. Now, I distinctly recall in 1998, the Grenada Union of Teachers made the call for a ban to be placed on the sale of alcohol at school functions. They recognized it back then. And it was thereafter when we began to formulate the policy that we took that into consideration. Well, this remains with the new schools policy. Some time ago, I shared this with some colleagues in the United States. And they asked, well, why do you need to put that in your policy? That should be an obvious situation. And I said, look, we have to understand culture and a couple of other situations. And so we would be underscoring this in the policy this time around, that the sale of alcohol at school functions is prohibited. And we have defined and explained what is meant by school functions, particularly events involving children. Well, the issue of financing comes in. And I always tell schools and principals, I challenge them, bring me the stats. Show me the stats where you make more money selling 2 cases of beer at your school event. Show me the stats where you make more money. I'm still waiting. But the issue is this. We are concerned about the lives, safety, and well-being of our children. And so it is incumbent upon us to do whatever we can to protect them. There are ways and means of generating income that will be dealt with. My primary concern of the Drug Control Secretariat, the concern of the Ministry of Education, the concern of the Minister for Education is the safety and well-being and the health of our children. We also looked at the question of suspension. In the previous policy and under the Education Act, provision is made for the suspension of children from school for drug-related offenses. While the law remains, and we consulted with the Ministry of Legal Affairs on this, and they did indicate that we can use another method. And so come September, we'll be focusing quite a lot on in-school suspension. That is, the child commits a drug-related offense. We would be doing the investigations, etc., but we want them to stay around school a bit. There may be an odd situation where we may have to ask them to remain home for a day or two. But as much as possible, we want to keep them at school, whereby we can provide the relevant assistance, counseling, guidance, etc. Because when we send them home, we have no access to them. And so we want to keep them around. Another key issue in the schools policy is a question of medications to students. A number of students do experience medical issues, whether it's diabetes, hypertension, etc. And some of them are required to take medication at certain times of the day when they will be at school. And so we am advising parents in this regard to inform the school. Let the principal know that, look, my child is supposed to take certain medications at 10 a.m. or at midday or at 9 a.m. So would you grant them permission, allow them time to do so? Where possible, the principal or the secretary can keep the medication in a safe place so the child can have access to it. Because we have heard some stories, not many, but a couple of instances where children were denied permission to take the medication at a certain time in the day. And so we want to work on that to help the children. And again, we had consulted with the Ministry of Health as regards this particular situation. There's another key area we just want to mention. That is the question of the students who special needs. We know that there are a number of children who have learning disorders, who have physical and other situations which they're not capable of making appropriate decisions like some of us. And so very often we find there have been a couple of them who have been used to either carry drugs to school or to distribute for other persons. So what we're saying with this policy, and again, we did consult extensively with the special education unit and other teachers involved in this area, that we would be working specifically with these children and of course the teachers to help these children in such a situation, so that they can make the appropriate decisions. And so this policy, as I said, it's very forward-thinking. In fact, in 2016, I attended a meeting in Mexico, and I was asked whether they can use Grenada Schools policy as a discussion point to see how other countries can prepare such a policy. And one of the experts in this field commented that even though that policy was initially formulated way back in 2002, it was so advanced. And of course, we give credit to the kind of information and data we had to formulate this. Well, times change, we need to move on, and so there are some new initiatives in this one. But just to underscore as I end, again, we are paying close attention to the issue of the sale of alcohol at school functions. This is a no-no under the school's policy, and we are working with the teachers, with schools, etc. in this regard. They have been informed on this already, and will continue to inform them during the new school year and thereafter. Thank you.
Woo, woo, woo. Yeah. I was recorded on Tuesday of this past week. And let me tell you, that too sparked a lot of heated debate here. I'm not sure I'm going to be able to get everything in, but I'm going to give it a shot. Melvin Coutet says, sugar is alcohol. Your small intestine is 20 feet in length. Sugar breaks down into alcohol. So how come Coca-Cola machines are in hospital, government buildings, and next to schools? Good question. He also, Mickaman Alexander says, if the minister is not taking part in transfers, how come she knows and sees the number of children who requested the transfers? Lydia James says, tell me about it. Wayne Francis says, I commend the government for this. That's progress. Healthy move for the children. Mickaman Alexander goes on to say here, I don't trust a word coming from that woman. Margaret says, here we go again. That damn would have. Again. Yes, Margaret, but you know, Mags, I have given up on blaming the individuals who use would have so indiscriminately. Margaret, with so many people using it, from the head of state on down, you ever stop to think that maybe it's a problem with the education system and not this is what they were taught. It's not one or two people doing this. You keep hearing it all over the place. Lydia says, she has a very astute observation here. Lydia says, but the minister stopped using it. I've been listening to her a few times now, and I don't hear her use it. Margaret says, Lydia James, you better don't talk too quick. Wayne Francis says, I must say, Grenada places great emphasis on its children's education. The problem is, after their education, finding jobs. Margaret says, I'm curious, is homeschooling an option for Grenada? Food for thought, Mags. Wayne Francis says that's the way it is here in the U.S. Ernesto says, I'm a little in disagreement with the minister on the social ban in school activities. Most of the activities schools hold are fairs and harvest or dances to raise funds for school supplies and repairing furniture or replacing it due to the little funds given by government. Selling of alcohol in these activities, as I mentioned, generates a great sum of the income that will be used to get the school going through the year. Wayne says, congratulations to the students. Lydia says, whoa, Margaret, I rarely talk too quick. I just hear her say pronouncements Mitchell would have made. I just heard her say. Margaret says, I hear you, but you can't be preaching one thing and practicing another. Alcohol should not be given to minors, and so should not be available on school property. Isa Buckmeyer says, congratulations to all the students. Congratulations to my loving cousin, Summer Caliste, who placed 177. I love you, baby girl. Wayne Francis says, that's a good move. Okay. Renewed Purpose says, the Grenada government has no shame because teachers and principals have to be slaving to raise funds and dipping into their pockets to get supplies for schools. Just do a survey of the expenses at various schools, light bulbs, water bills, and so on. Huge balances on the bills. It is as if the government does not invest in maintaining schools at all. Wayne Francis says, time has changed and we must adopt this going to benefit the children greatly. Whatever. Mickerman Alexander says, alcohol, lies, drug, and empty promises must not be given to school children at any time. Folks, I think I'm going to pull the plug here. We've gone past our time, and I want to say thank you so much for joining us this morning. Tomorrow morning, I'm going to run an excerpt from that segment we did with Elwyn McQuilkin, the Black Wizard, and Lenny. We'll play a little bit of that for you, just in case you missed it this morning, and for those who only join us on weekdays. And so I'm going to extend an invitation to all of you to join me tomorrow morning at 9 o'clock for the next edition of Good Day, Grenada. Georgie Porgy sending God's blessings. I do hope you enjoy the rest of your Sunday. All is well with you. And by His grace, we'll see you tomorrow. However, parting word from the Holy Scriptures. Titus chapter 1, verses 15 and 16. To the pure, all things are pure. But to those who are corrupted and do not believe, nothing is pure. In fact, both their minds and consciences are corrupted. They claim to know God, but by their actions, they deny him. They are detestable, disobedient, and unfit for doing anything good. Titus 1:15 and 16. Okie doke, folks. Thank you very much for joining us. God bless you.